My bully stole my girlfriend because my only skill was communication. He didn't know that I had a system that let me rizz up and tame every dragon baddie. No one, not even me, knew that dragons were the most powerful beings in this world. Our class appeared in an empty field. Everyone else awakened survival powers. Fire, healing, lightning, weapon summons. My bully summoned a glowing night sword. My screen opened a dating app called DragonDate. Love algorithm, level max, makes anyone fall for you. Combat output 0. The whole class laughed at my dating app. My girlfriend crossed the grass and grabbed his arm. I need someone who can actually protect me. He smiled like he had stolen something valuable. Then a roar shook the forest. Everyone else heard a monster coming to kill us. I heard a woman scream, "Get this stupid spear out of my wing." My useless app had just matched me with a dragon. It let me talk to monsters, not control them. If one of them liked me back, the app opened a team slot. I didn't ask my girlfriend to come back. I slapped him once and said, "Keep her." Sunset was close when he laughed. "Leave him, he won't survive the night. If he's somehow alive in 3 days, we'll bring supplies." Then the woman laughed from the trees, and his smile vanished. My girlfriend, Lena, stayed tucked beside his arm and kept her eyes on the dark trees instead of me. I could have called after her. I could have reminded her that we'd been together before any of this happened. Instead, I looked toward the forest and heard the woman behind the roar mutter something about ripping a hunter in half. That sounded more useful than another argument. Damon's voice carried across the field behind me. I stopped at the first line of trees and looked back. He had one hand resting on the sword while the others waited for him to move. "If you're trying to scare us, it's not working." "I'm not trying to scare you." Another roar rolled between the trunks. The class flinched as one body. I heard, "Is the human still there?" I raised my voice. "Yeah, I'm still here." The forest went silent for one beat. Then the woman shouted, "Then stop standing around and get over here." To everyone else, the answer was another violent roar. To me, it was the first useful conversation I'd had since arriving. A few students who had already started following Damon stopped walking. Lena's head snapped toward me. Damon's smile disappeared completely. "What did you just do?" Lena asked. I answered her. Damon gave a short laugh that didn't reach his face. "You answered a monster." "Yutting. On." He looked at the class and lifted his sword toward the opposite tree line. "We're wasting daylight." That was his answer to something he couldn't explain. The group started moving again. Lena hesitated long enough for me to notice. Then Damon touched her shoulder and she went with him. She didn't tell him to wait for me. She didn't tell me to come with them. That part mattered more than the excuse she'd given earlier. Damon called one last thing across the grass. "If that thing follows you back, don't bring it near our camp." Our camp. He had been holding a sword for less than an hour and had already decided every person, supply bag, and safe patch of ground belonged under him. Lena heard it too. She still said nothing. I filed that away and turned toward the only person in this world who had actually asked me for help. I stepped into the forest alone. The field disappeared behind thick trunks within minutes. Every ordinary sound hit harder because I had no weapon and no attack skill. Branches shifted above me. Something small hissed under a root. The love algorithm caught pieces of meaning whenever the sound belonged to something intelligent enough to have language. Most of it was useless. A bird-like thing complained that I was loud. Something under the leaves called me meat and then decided I looked too skinny. I kept walking toward the one voice that had asked for help. The roar came again from lower ground. This time the words were strained. "Human, if you ran away, I will find your bones later." Very motivating. A stunned pause followed. Then I heard a laugh. It was low, rough, and far too amused for something that sounded big enough to flatten the forest. The love algorithm made the meaning clear, but the physical sound still shook bark from the nearest trunk. I followed it downhill. The trees opened above a broken ravine. Black rock split the forest floor into a deep bowl. Something enormous lay chained at the bottom. For 1 second, my brain refused to measure it. A black dragon filled half the ravine. Crimson light ran between several scales like heat trapped under stone. One wing was spread across the ground and pinned through by a spear thicker than my leg. Dark metal chains wrapped her shoulder, neck, and forelimbs. The chains were fixed to stakes hammered into the ravine walls. Molten gold eyes found me at the ridge. The eye alone looked large enough to reflect my entire body. A match card opened on my screen. Match found. Chatline open. The dragon's lips pulled back from teeth longer than my forearm. So the little human really came. I swallowed. "Were you expecting someone taller?" Her eye narrowed. "I was expecting someone armed." "That makes 2 of us." The dragon stared at me long enough that my legs remembered they were supposed to be afraid. Then her gaze dropped to my empty hands. "You have no mana in your body." Apparently that's hilarious. It is a little funny. I climbed down the ravine slowly. Loose stones rolled under my shoes. The dragon tracked every step. When I got close enough to see the blood dried around the spear, I stopped. The weapon had been driven through the thick membrane near the base of her wing. Silver marks along the shaft pulsed with faint light. The chains carried the same marks. This wasn't something a random monster had done. Someone had built these restraints for a dragon. Before you touch that spear, she said, understand something. I'm listening. If you pull it straight out, the barbs open inside my wing. I took my hand away from the shaft. Good warning. If you touch my wing without permission, I bite you. Also a good warning. Her tail shifted once behind her. The impact cracked a loose rock in half. I decided she wasn't joking. What's your name? I asked. Her expression changed by half a degree. The word landed with the weight of a title even though she gave me nothing else. I'm Ren. I heard the loud one call you that. So you heard all of them? I heard noise. Her gold eye sharpened on me. You were the only one speaking. That one sentence hit harder than it should have. Back in the field, everyone had heard me talking and assumed I was useless. Down here, the dragon had heard everyone else and decided I was the only person saying anything. I almost laughed. Instead, I crouched near the pinned wing and kept both hands visible. Can I look at the wound? Nairu didn't answer immediately. Her claws flexed against the stone. Then she shifted the wing just enough to give me a better angle. You may look. A tiny app notice appeared and vanished. Permission granted. I leaned closer without touching her. The silver markings on the spear pulsed again. A matching pulse ran through the chains. Nairu's face tightened. That's the part I need gone first. The spear. The signal. I looked toward the glowing runes. You know what it does? It calls the people who put it there. The words killed the little bit of relief I'd been feeling. How long until they come back? Nairu looked toward the darkening sky above the ravine. If they're close, soon. Helpful. You asked a question with an answer I don't have. Eager. She watched me examine the nearest chain lock. I had a trapped dragon who had threatened to bite me twice. Somehow, I still preferred my side of the deal. Nairu lowered her head until one molten gold eye was level with me. They go now. The spear is still calling them. Above us, something metallic clicked in the forest. The arrival field would reopen at the third sunset, and the class had already decided I would never see it. Nairu's gold eye snapped toward the trees. That isn't them yet. Good news? No. I moved to the nearest chain lock. 3 rings of black metal wrapped around a silver collar. Naira told me which way to turn them. The first ring barely moved. I braced one shoe against the stone and forced it left. A hidden barb withdrew from her shoulder with a hard snap. Nairu flinched. I froze. Keep going. That sounded bad. It felt worse when they put it on. I turned the second ring. The chain loosened. A small line opened on my screen. Restraint pressure reduced. Nairu angled the spear through her wing. 3 hooks are open inside. Of course there are. You rotate the shaft until they lie flat. And then pull? And brace the inner membrane while you pull. I looked at her teeth. Your easy instructions keep putting my hands near everything that can kill me. Nairu made a low sound. It took me a second to realize she was laughing. Claws scraped rock above us. Gray scavengers appeared along the rim. The front beast growled. The love algorithm gave me the words. Wounded giant, unclaimed meat. Nairu's nostrils flared. I am not a carcass. The pack started down. I grabbed a loose rock. Naira looked at it. What are you doing with that? Emotionally supporting you. Put it down. Him did. Naira listened to the pack. They follow Ridge law. What law? She gave me one sentence. I turned and repeated it. Blood beneath a living crown is not carrion. The front scavenger stopped, its ears flattened. Human speaks boundary law. I stepped forward, very awake crown behind me. Naira raised her head. Crimson light gathered in her throat. The whole pack backed away. Then it turned and climbed out of the ravine. That was my first real lesson. The love algorithm did not make me stronger. It let me use rules other people could not even hear. A human voice called from the ridge. Target still pinned. Nairu's entire body went rigid. 5 hunters appeared with crossbows. Their captain pointed at her. Kid, step away from the asset. I hated the word immediately. Nairu growled. They put the spear through my wing while I slept. I translated. The captain's expression changed. You understand it. Her. That makes this easier. He raised one hand. Tell her to stop resisting. No. The first bolt fired. Naira twisted aside. Another struck the stone beside me. 2 hunters slid into the ravine. Nairu's free claw sent the first into the wall. The second threw a restraint cable toward her injured wing. She caught it in her teeth. Then she changed. Her massive dragon body broke into black and crimson light. A tall adult woman stepped from the glow. Fair skin showed between black scale armor along her arms, hips, and shoulders. Long obsidian hair burned crimson underneath. Black horns curved above molten gold eyes. A dragon tail struck the ground behind her. Crimson-edged wings opened from her back, with the wounded one still pinned by the spear. The hunters stopped moving. So did I. Nairu looked at me. Ren, right. Human height did not make her less dangerous. It only made the fact that she was a woman impossible to miss. The captain dropped into the ravine with a sword. Nairu caught the blade in black claws. Metal screamed. I ducked under her injured wing. The locking plate around the spear tip sat exactly where she described it. Turn toward the red mark, she said. I twisted. A hidden catch clicked. Again, I turned farther. Blood ran fresh down the wing. The captain broke away from Nairu and rushed me. She intercepted him before I could even move. Her tail swept his legs out. Inner membrane, she snapped. I flattened the plate with both hands. Now? Pull. I pulled. The spear came free in silver light and blood. The restraints across the ravine flickered. Nairu folded the injured wing tight. The captain stared at the dead runes. Impossible. Naira stepped between him and me. Not behind me, not at my command, between us. You're protecting him? Naira smiled without warmth. He asked before touching my wing. The captain did not understand why that mattered. That was probably the point. Nairu hit him once. He flew into the ravine wall and lost his sword. The remaining hunters broke. Nairu let them run. I did not ask why. They had chained her. She got to decide what happened after she was free. The ravine went quiet. I picked up the spear. The same angular crest was stamped into the metal beside the dead tracking rune. Nairu's expression changed when she saw it. That mark should not still exist. I looked toward the direction the hunters had fled. Then we probably need to find out why it does. Nairu did not offer me a contract after the hunters left. That mattered. I had pulled a spear from her wing. I had not purchased a dragon queen. She led me to a warm stone shelter hidden under a black cliff. The place had clean water, dry ground, and enough heat leaking through the rock to keep me alive through the night. Right then, it looked better than a palace. Nairu dropped one hunter pack beside me. One night. One night of what? My protection. She folded her arms. You helped me. I will give you safe territory until morning, food, water, and one favor before we part. That is very specific. It stops humans from hearing one kind act and inventing ownership. I thought about Damon claiming leadership because he owned a bright sword. Fair. I asked the question anyway. Will you come to the arrival field? No. I nodded. Then no. Nairu watched me. You accept that quickly. You said no. A small line opened on my screen. Request declined. Trust unchanged. It was almost insulting in its honesty. Nairu gave me dried meat from the hunter pack. I found a water pouch that had not been punctured. For the first time since the class left, I had food, clean water, shelter, and someone powerful enough to keep the night from eating me. None of it came from combat magic. Old? It belonged to a program that claimed intelligent monsters were too dangerous to remain free. I looked at the scar in her wing. And they are still using it. Was. That answer became the first problem bigger than Damon. Naira looked at the spear again. I said I would not go to your field. I did not say I would let that program reach it first. That is not the same answer. No, it is a better one. We left at first light. Naira stayed in her adult humanoid form through the dense forest. Her injured wing could fold against her back without dragging through the trees. She moved faster than I did anyway. By midday, I understood another benefit of talking to monsters. Birds told us where a flooded trail had collapsed. A burrowing animal warned us about a horned predator near a spring. Nairu knew which warnings mattered. I knew what the warnings meant. Together, we stopped wasting time on danger that did not need to become a fight. The second sunset started turning the trees orange when the forest changed. Red gold leaves replaced the dark pines. Warm mist moved between the trunks. Nairu stopped. We are at Fenu's border. Who is Fenu? A laugh came from the branches. Someone with better hearing than your dragon expected. A woman dropped onto the trail. Fair skin. Long copper-orange hair. Ruby eyes. Dragon horns above her hair. Red gold dragon wings opened behind her. She had the same problem Nairu had. Human height did nothing to make her look harmless. Nairu's shoulders tightened. Fenyu. The flame dragon queen smiled. Naira. Then she looked at me. So, this is the human. I am standing here. That helps. She circled me once. Nairu's tail tapped the ground. Fena noticed. Her smile widened. No collar. No. No handler mark. No. No weapon. Also no. Fen-U looked delighted. You smell like hunters. They tried to take Nairu again. And you survived? Mostly by not standing in front. Nairu's tail tapped my ankle. I took that as agreement. Fenya laughed. Then she stepped into the center of the trail. We need passage north, I said. No. Nairu's wings shifted. Fenu. No. Her wings spread behind her. Dragons burned these hunting grounds before this human was born. I did not, Naira said. You are still a dragon asking me to forget. I understood every word. Understanding did not make the refusal disappear. The fastest route to the return field crossed Fenu's territory. Going around would cost the time we did not have. Fenu looked at me. If your strange skill is really what Naira says, convince me. Naira cut in. I said nothing about his charm. Fena grinned. Then this should be quick. I looked at the darkening trail behind her. Benu waited for me to impress her. Nairu waited for me to embarrass myself. I looked between two women who could turn me into smoke and decided not to flirt. What do you want? Fenu blinked. That is your opening line? It is a border negotiation. It can be two things. Nairu made a sound behind me. I ignored it. Fenu listed the usual things humans offered. Gold, jewels, titles. I had none of them. So ask properly, she said. What would make letting us cross worth it to you? Her smile changed. Thunder Elk Heart Cap. I did not pretend to know what that was. What is a heart cap? The dark strip behind the heart. She pointed south. Human hunters take the core and antlers, then throw the best part away. That sounded familiar. Humans kept deciding value before asking who wanted the thing. Nairu knew where the herd migrated. She hunted one without needing flight. My contribution was staying far enough away not to become a second rescue. Fenyu met us at a flat black stone. She told me exactly which cut she wanted. I used a hunter knife. Lower, Fenyu said. I moved the blade, not that low, I moved it back. Naira sighed. You are enjoying this. Very much, Fena said. The heart cap finally came free. Nairo heated a stone with one controlled breath. I used hunter salt from the captured pack. Fenu N.E. told me when to turn the meat. I listened. The smell changed. Fenu's wings stopped moving. Nairu noticed. So this is what silences you. Fen ignored her. She took the first bite. A small line opened on my screen. Preference remembered. Trust increased. The love algorithm confirmed the result after I earned it. It still had not told me what to do. Fenyu opened her eyes. Passage granted until the field opens. I exhaled. One future favor too. Nairu looked at her. That was not part of the bargain. I am improving it. Fenyu smiled at me. Nairu's tail tapped the back of my leg. Frenu's eyes moved down, then back up. Oh! No, Naira said. I said nothing. You were about to. Feno laughed. I decided the name on my screen was going to embarrass me long before the skill ever did. A howl cut through the trees. Fena stopped laughing. Another howl answered from the south. The love algorithm carried the words. Drive Blackwing north. Flush target to iron marker. Captain wants dragon alive. I looked at Naira. The hunters are back. Fenu's red gold wings flared. Inside my border. Half the hounds are moving toward your dens. Her expression went cold. Naira stepped forward. I will break them. Not by burning my forest, Fenu snapped. They both started talking. The love algorithm carried every word. My brain did not enjoy receiving two angry queens at once. They looked at me. I pointed toward the western slope. Fena, can you pull the first pack away from the dens without fighting them head-on? Yes. I turned to Naira. The second pack is trying to drive you into a hunter marker. I know. Will you hold the stone pass instead of chasing them? Nairu looked at Fena. Fena looked back. Neither woman wanted orders from me. So, I did not give any. Fenu answered first. I will protect my dens. Nairu nodded once. I will hold the pass. Two separate yeses. A team slot opened for each yes. Fenyu vanished into red gold fire. False scent trails split through the forest. The first hound pack broke formation and chased the wrong dragons. Nairu changed to dragon form at the stone pass. She planted her body across the narrow gap with the injured wing protected against the cliff. The second pack charged. Her tail swept the front hounds into the others. I stayed on the ridge and listened. The hounds repeated training commands. Drive target. Hold for metal men. Do not kill valuable wing. The hunter captain was still close enough to expect a capture. Nairu, they are waiting behind the north marker. She changed position. Instead of chasing the retreat, she blocked the route back to the handlers. Fenu sent 3 hounds running after an illusion straight toward the same pass. She landed beside me in humanoid form. Was that your plan? Close enough. The hounds broke, some fled. Others tore control whistles from their necks and ran deeper into the forest once no handler call made sense. We let them go. The road was finally open. We started north before either queen found another reason to argue. The third sunset was waiting at the same field where everyone had decided I would never return. The people who promised to bring me supplies came back needing supplies themselves. I heard Damon arguing before I saw the return field. Half a strip each. That is not enough, Lena said. It is what we have. Theo made a tired sound. We had more before the boars found the pack. I stopped at the edge of the brush. Naira stood on my left in her humanoid form. Fenu stood on my right with red gold wings held high. She had been smiling for the last mile. These are the heroes? She asked. They looked better when they abandoned me. Nairu studied the smoke ahead. They smell worse. The camp looked nothing like the empty field we had arrived in. Broken branches formed a rough wall. Wet fires struggled under damp wood. A torn school jacket filtered water into a clay pot. Everyone had weapons. Nobody looked rested. Damon's sword had a long scrape down one side. Mud covered his boots. A bandage wrapped his forearm. Lena sat beside him with dirt across one cheek. Our classmate Theo was dividing one strip of dried meat with a broken ruler. Then Fenu stepped on a branch. Every head turned. Someone shouted, "Monster." Damon was first on his feet. His sword came up. I walked out between the trees. The whole field went silent. My girlfriend Lena stood so fast her cup hit the ground. Theo forgot the ration in his hands. My bully, Damon, lowered his sword by maybe an inch. Ren, still alive. Nobody laughed. That was new. Nairu walked out behind me. Her black horns caught the last red light. Fena followed on my other side. Red gold dragon wings spread behind her. The class backed away without anyone giving the order. Damon stared at both women. Then at the smoked thunder elk on my shoulder. "What did you do?" "Walked north." "That is not what I meant." Theo pointed at the bundle. "Is that food?" I put it on a flat stone. The smell reached the class. 3 people swallowed at the same time. Lena stared. "You found all that?" "We traded for some." "With who?" I nodded toward Fenyu. "With her." Damon laughed too quickly. "So you got lucky." 3 days ago I had been useless. Now I was lucky. "I guess." Agreeing bothered him more than arguing. One boy pointed at Naira. "Is she your summon?" I translated. Naira answered immediately. "No." The boy blinked. Naira stepped beside me. "I am not summoned." I translated that too. Lena took one careful step forward. "Ren, we were going to come back for you." Damon jumped in. "I told you we would bring supplies." Theo looked down at the single ration strip in his hand. Bad timing. I looked across their camp. "What supplies?" Fena laughed into one hand. Damon's face went red. We had a bad route, apparently. We were protecting the whole class. Nairu looked at me. I was doing most of the protecting. "I know." I translated that one. A few students looked at her differently. Lena's eyes moved from my food to Nairu and Fenyu. "You really walked toward that roar." "Yeah." "And that was her?" Nairu looked at Lena, then at me. "This is the one? Please do not." Fenyu brightened. "This is the one." The sky flashed white before that conversation got worse. Light spread through the grass where our classroom had first appeared. A system panel opened in front of every student. Third sunset reached. Return field active. Surviving candidates may cross. People grabbed their packs. Damon started giving orders again. "Everyone together. Stay behind me." Then he looked at Nairu and Fenyu. "Do not bring those things through." Nairu understood after I translated. Her molten gold eyes narrowed. Fenyu smiled. I looked at Damon. "They decide where they go." Nairu stepped into the gate before I finished the sentence. Fenyu followed her. Theo stared. "Right." I carried the meat through. Cold white light swallowed the field. Stone hit my shoes. We stood inside a fortified city wall packed with transfer platforms, guards, markets, towers, and weapon racks. Crystal arches began scanning us immediately. Damon's result flashed first. Hero Knight detected. Elite combat sponsorship recommended. His face changed. The new world had found a category it liked for him. Then the scan reached me. Love algorithm detected. Combat output 0. Provisional survivor accepted. A guard checked the result. Then he saw Nairu's horns and Fenyu's wings. His hand moved toward his weapon. A red panel opened. Unregistered high-rank monster entities detected. Entry unresolved. Damon looked relieved. The third sunset was over. Human society took one look at Nairu standing freely beside me and decided the missing collar was the dangerous part. The transfer platform emptied into a registration hall built like a train station for armed people. Clerks sorted us into lines before anyone had time to ask where we were. Damon did not stay in line long. A man in a white coat saw the Hero Knight result floating over his wrist and walked straight toward him. "Damon Reeve?" "That's me. Crownspire Guild has an intake room for combat candidates." A gold badge appeared in the man's hand. Behind him, 2 attendants carried clean boots, food packs, and a wrapped set of light armor. Damon looked at me before he took the badge. That part was deliberate. Looks like this world knows what useful means. 3 days in the forest had not cured him. It had only made him hungry enough to enjoy being important again. Lena moved with him. She glanced back once, not at me first, at Naira. Fenu leaned toward my shoulder. "She keeps looking," I noticed. Nairu's eyes narrowed. So did I. A woman in a dark registry coat stepped between us before that conversation could become dangerous. Her silver badge carried more seals than the other clerks. Her dark hair was pinned tight behind her head. She looked at Nairu's horns, wings, tail, and finally her bare neck. No restraint collar. No. No domination chain. No. No handler crest. No. She looked at me. "You are answering very quickly." "I have had a strange week." She held out her hand. "Examiner Seru Ren Calder." "I know." Her crystal tablet showed my result. Luth algorithm. Combat output 0. Sarah looked from the words to Nairu again. "What is the mechanism keeping the dragon beside you?" Nairu heard the question through me. Her expression became cold. "Oh." I translated. Sarah waited. For the record, I need an answer that means something. That was the answer. A Crown Spire clerk at the next counter laughed under his breath. High-rank entities do not follow zero-output candidates for friendship. Nairu turned toward him. He stopped laughing. The clerk beside her stared at the registration form. There is no refusal field. Then add one, Sarah said. Damon had paused near the Crown Spire doors. He heard that. His mouth tightened. Sarah wrote something on her tablet. Independent refusal recorded. A new line appeared on my provisional entry panel. Voluntary high-rank association under review. It was not approval. It was enough to keep the guards from reaching for chains. Sarah lowered the tablet. You have until registration closes to prove this arrangement can operate safely inside protected territory. What happens if I cannot? The dragon leaves the protected zone. Nairu's eyes went molten gold. Sarah did not flinch. And him? Naira asked. I translated. Sarah looked at me. He can leave with you. That was fairer than I expected. It was still a threat. Crownspire's intake hall stood across the courtyard. Theo stared at him. They gave you all that already? Damon smiled. They invest in people who can contribute. His eyes moved to my old uniform. Fenyu's wings rose behind me. I touched one hand to her arm before she could enjoy herself. Not worth the paperwork. Sarah heard that. The smallest part of her mouth moved. Then she handed me a bronze field token. Good. What is this? A rescue route. The smile disappeared from my face. Sarah pointed toward the outer wall. 3 candidates are stranded along the East River Channel after a bridge failure. Then why are we standing here? Because the river is inside an unregistered monster territory. Damon took his own token from a Crown Spire examiner. He turned it over between his fingers. Perfect. The East River cut through a gorge below the frontier wall. Broken stone pillars stuck out of fast green water. 3 candidates clung to the remains of an old survey platform in the center. A horn sounded above us. Sarah stood on the observation ridge with officials and record crystals. Damon's route ran along the upper bank toward a winch tower. Mine ended at the water. Open the evacuation channel before the second horn, Sarah called. If you cannot, registry intervention ends the attempt. Damon looked down from his side of the gorge. Try talking to the water. I ignored him. The answer came first anyway. A woman's voice rolled through the current. Stay out. Everyone else heard rushing water and a low hiss. I heard words. A shape rose near the broken platform. A long emerald dragon body uncoiled from beneath the river. The upper half became an adult woman as she surfaced. Fair skin contrasted with jade green hair that fell almost to the water. Turquoise eyes locked onto the stranded candidates. Emerald and aqua scales covered her tail and framed her shoulders. The officials above me shouted warnings. Damon drew his sword. I raised both hands. I can understand her. Sarah's voice came from the ridge. Then use that. The river dragon looked at me. You are the human with the dragon. That rumor moved fast. The river moves faster. One of the stranded candidates slipped. Water surged around his knees. I made the decision too quickly. That was the mistake. I need you to lower the current so I can get them out. Her face changed, not confusion, fury. I stopped. They will drown. Humans came into my nesting channel with hooks. I did not. You came asking me to save humans before asking what humans did. That landed harder than I wanted it to. I looked at the platform, then back at her. What did they do? The river dragon's tail struck the water. A wave hit the stone hard enough to make everyone on the ridge step back. They took my clutch. Who took them? Humans wearing iron hooks. Inners. I do not care what humans call other humans. The second horn sounded. A red crystal barrier dropped from the ridge and wrapped the stranded candidates. Rhea street cables pulled the whole platform toward shore. The rescue was over. My attempt was not what saved them. Route failed. Emergency intervention recorded. Damon's winch slammed into place on the upper bank at almost the same moment. His route panel flashed green. Hero night route completed. Provisional ranking advantage awarded. Damon looked down at me from the ridge. Talking still isn't fighting. No one laughed loudly. They did not need to. The board had already said enough. Sarah came down the stone steps with her tablet in one hand. She did not look pleased. She did not look smug either. That almost made it worse. Naira stood behind me with her arms crossed. She did not defend me. I was grateful for that. Sarah's tablet flashed. The failure moved onto the same provisional file as Naira's registration. The river dragon began sinking back into the water. Wait. She stopped with only her shoulders above the surface. I did not ask her to help again. I did not tell her I had meant well. What do I call you? She watched me for a long second. Nairis. Then she disappeared beneath the current. I did not go back to Nairis to ask for another chance. I went back to ask what humans had taken from her. The river had calmed after the registry pulled the stranded candidates out. Nairis surfaced beside the same broken pillar with only her upper body above the green water. Her jade hair clung to her shoulders. Her expression said she had already decided how much patience I deserved. Your officials sent you back. No, your dragon did. No. Nairu stood behind me on the bank. I considered it. Nairis heard only my translation. She looked past me at Nairu. Then why are you here? I crouched at the waterline. Because I asked you to fix my problem before I asked what happened to yours. Nairis said nothing. I was wrong. Still nothing. I am not asking you to forgive that. Her eyes narrowed slightly. What are you asking? Where did they take your clutch? That changed the river. The current around her tail slowed. North Bank. That is a large place. Black warehouse under the old aqueduct. Anything else? No. I waited. She waited longer. Finally, Nairis spoke again. Bring them back alive. I will try. Do not promise what you cannot guarantee. Nairu's mouth moved behind me. I did not need to look at her to know she approved of that sentence. Sarah looked at me for a second. You are not arguing much today. I had a useful morning. Her eyes moved toward Nairis, then back to me. You need more than a result. I know. Nairis stepped closer. Sarah looked up at her horns and decided that was enough conversation. Fenu met us outside the north gate chewing dried meat. You failed your first official rescue, Theo told you. Immediately. Do I get to help? It is not revenge. Nairu's small smile disappeared before Fenya could comment. The black warehouse sat below a broken stone aqueduct where the river bent toward the frontier wall. Iron cages filled the lower yard, hooked chains hung from the roof beams. The same black metal used on Nairu's restraint was stacked beside the loading door. I counted 6 poachers outside. Naira found 4 inside. Fennu heard 2 on the roof. I touched my hunter knife. Naira glanced at it. That remains adorable. The first poacher saw us and reached for a whistle. Fennu vanished, not actually. 5 copies of her sprinted across the yard in different directions. The man blew the whistle at the wrong dragon. Nairu hit the gate. She stayed in humanoid form because the yard was too narrow for her full body. One black-scaled forearm knocked the iron bar out of its brackets. The gate folded inward. I ran behind them. That was the correct position for the man with 0 combat output. A voice shouted from the nearest cage. Do not touch the floor plate. Everyone else heard a sharp animal bark. I stopped with my boot 1 inch above a dark square of stone. Which plate? The black one under you. I stepped back. A poacher threw a knife at me. Naira caught his wrist before the blade left his hand. Thank you, watch your feet. Another captive voice came from deeper inside. Hooks above the second door. I looked up. Thin iron lines crossed the ceiling. Fenna, do not enter the second doorway. Why? Drop hooks. Benu's real body stopped outside the threshold while 3 illusions ran through it. The ceiling exploded downward. Hooks tore through empty dragon images. Fenyu stared at the trap, then at me. I forgive Theo for spreading the story about you. Please do not encourage him. One poacher kicked a terrified river beast from a cage. Run left, it cried. I translated. Nairu moved left. The beast hit the poacher instead. Humans had built this place around the assumption that monsters could not explain the traps. That assumption lasted until I walked inside. I reached the rear storage room. 3 translucent eggs floated inside separate water cylinders. Each one was wrapped in iron mesh. A 4th cylinder stood empty. My chest tightened. Nairis said clutch. Nairu stepped in behind me. She did not say how many. A tiny voice came from the far wall. 4th is below. A caged river creature pointed its nose toward a drain grate. I dropped to my knees. The grate was locked. My hunter knife fit between 2 rusted bolts. Fennu landed beside me. Move. One claw turned red gold. She cut the lock without touching the pipe. Below the grate sat the 4th egg in a shallow transport basket. It was cracked. Not open. Just cracked. Still alive, Naira said. We moved fast after that. Naira carried 2 cylinders. Fenua carried 1 and the cracked egg wrapped in her cloak. I opened cages as we passed. The captive monsters told me which exit was clean. A poacher fired a restraint cannon as we crossed the yard. Nairu stepped in front of me. The bolt broke against her shoulder scales, but her injured wing twitched. I am fine, she said. You say that too often. Fenyu burned the control rope. Nairu dropped the gunner. We reached the river before sunset. Nairis surfaced so fast the water climbed the bank. Her eyes found the cracked egg first. I set it down carefully. We found all 4. Nairis did not answer me. She wrapped both arms around the damaged egg and pulled it against her chest. Her tail curled around the other 3 cylinders. For several breaths, nobody spoke. Then the emergency horn sounded upriver. The same candidates were trapped again behind a collapsed spillway. Registry ropes could not reach through the surge. Sarah stood on the observation bridge. Damon stood beside her in crownspire armor. Nairis looked upriver, then at me. I did not ask. She handed the cracked egg to me. Hold her. That was her decision. Nairis plunged into the river. The water changed direction around her body. A wall of green current rose beneath the trapped candidates and lifted them away from the broken spillway. Nairu took the lower bank. Fenyu filled the mist with false shapes, so panicked river beasts chased the wrong targets. I stood knee-deep at the edge holding Nairis's egg against my chest and translated every warning she shouted through the water. Left pillar failing, I yelled it to Sarah. Move the rope team left. Sarah moved them. Third candidate cannot swim, I pointed. Red coat first. Regis Shri rescuers changed formation. The route opened faster than the original attempt had lasted. Nairis pushed the final candidate onto dry stone and took her cracked egg back from me. The official crystal above the gorge flashed bright blue. Emergency river rescue completed. All candidates recovered. Fastest recorded clear on the East Channel. Nobody laughed. Sarah checked the result twice. Damon stared at the board. Talking still isn't fighting, I said quietly. His jaw tightened. I did not need him to hear it. Fenyu did. She laughed loud enough for both of us. Nairis settled beside her clutch. She looked at me across the water. One favor. For bringing them back? For listening after you failed. Her team slot opened on my screen. Sarah's tablet updated. The red mark beside my failed route remained. A new blue record appeared beneath it. The failure had not vanished. It had been answered. Nairis lifted one hand toward the river bend. There is a route under the eastern wall humans do not use. Why not? They think everything living there wants to kill them. Fenyu smiled. This sounds profitable. Naira looked at her. You hear one hidden route and think of money. I hear one human mistake and think of opportunity. I looked at the waterway disappearing beneath the wall. Crownspire's maps barely marked it. Nairis lived on it. That was enough reason to pay attention. Nairis opened the eastern channel at dawn. A section of river beside the frontier wall sank 3 feet and revealed a stone passage hidden under hanging roots. Theo stared into the dark water. You're telling me that has been here the whole time? Nairis answered through me. Longer than your wall. Naira stayed near the city gates because Sarah wanted every high-rank movement logged while registration remained open. Fenyu A came with me because she had heard the word market. That was apparently enough. Nairis led us through the channel. The stone tunnel opened into a wide river corridor beyond the wall. Small platforms had been built into the reeds. Bundles of dried plants hung from ropes. Monster cores sat beside sacks of salt. Fish smoked over low blue fires. Humans called this hostile territory. The locals called it breakfast. The first trader was a broad amphibian monster with yellow eyes and a basket of pale mushrooms. He growled when Theo approached. Theo froze. What did he say? He asked whether you always smell like old bread. Theo looked offended. That is incredibly specific. The trader growled again. He says yes. Fena laughed so hard one tail knocked over a basket. I asked the trader what he wanted for the mushrooms. He pointed at Theo's pack. The dried salt strips. Theo opened the bag. These cost almost nothing inside the wall. To him, they do not. We traded one cheap salt strip for enough mushrooms to fill half the bag. The next stall wanted sewing needles. Another wanted glass jars. One old river creature wanted soap. Theo watched the exchanges for almost an hour before he finally asked the question he'd been avoiding. Ren, yeah. About the field. I kept walking. Theo followed. I left with Damon, I noticed. I was scared. I noticed that too. He rubbed the back of his neck. I am not going to say I thought someone would stay with you. Good. Because I did not. That made me stop. Theo looked miserable. He also looked honest. I thought you were going to die, he said. And I still walked away. Fenyu stopped smiling. Nairis watched from the river. Theo held up both hands. I am not asking you to tell me it was fine. Good then. I am asking if I can be useful now. He opened his ability panel. Preservation Pocket. Stored food and medicine decay slowed dramatically. Combat output negligible. I looked at him. You got mocked too? Not as much as you. That is comforting. Theo pointed at the mushrooms we had traded for. I can keep those fresh. He pointed at the smoked fish. That too. Then he pointed at a bundle of river medicine Neris had shown us. And if that stuff spoils normally, I can keep it usable until we get back. Fenyu leaned close to me. You collected a storage human. He is volunteering. That is what you say about all of us. Theo looked between us. Was that flirting? No. Fenyu smiled. Yes. I decided not to translate Nairu's opinion on this later. The contract board inside the frontier market had a request no Crownspire team had taken. A riverside clinic needed blue reed medicine from beyond the eastern marsh. The reward was low. The route was listed as hostile. The time window was short because the medicine spoiled quickly once cut. Theo checked the posting twice. This is almost designed for us. Theo looked at me. I looked at Nairis. Nairis looked bored. Apparently, Theo said, we know a guy. We took the contract. The trip would have taken a combat team hours because the official path circled 3 territories. Nairis carried us through the river route. Theo stored the cut plants the moment they came out of the water. His skill kept the blue veins bright instead of turning gray. No boss fight happened. No one needed to destroy a territory. We paid for passage, collected the medicine, and came back through the same waterway. The clinic clerk stared when Theo placed the fresh bundles on the counter. You went through the eastern marsh? Yes. With no escort team? Nairis escorted us. The clerk looked toward the doorway. Nairis's emerald tail was visible outside. He went pale. She is a monster. Nairis said something sharp. What did she say? Theo asked. That you are observant. Theo coughed into one hand. The contract crystal chimed. Medicine delivery completed. Freshness grade exceptional. Route efficiency record updated. The public board across the market changed. My name moved upward, not to the top, high enough that people noticed. Ren Calder, 0 combat output. Efficiency ranking increased. The same candidates who had laughed at the contract started reading the line twice. Merchants turned toward the river gate. One woman who sold travel supplies stepped directly toward me. Can you actually negotiate passage through monster territory? Sometimes. What would they want for a regular medicine route? I would have to ask them. That answer confused her more than a price would have. Damon appeared at the edge of the crowd wearing Crownspire silver. His own ranking was still above mine because his combat routes paid more. His smile disappeared anyway when he saw the number beside my name. You are doing delivery work now? It paid. Really? Theo looked at the contract receipt. Actually, with the efficiency bonus, it paid pretty well. Damon ignored him. You cannot build a ranking carrying vegetables. The market board chimed again. A second merchant posted a monster route request, then a third. Theo watched them appear. I think we just invented weaponized customer service. Nairis looked at me. What does that mean? Nothing good. Fena loved the phrase immediately. I already knew Nairu would hate it. Crownspire had spent money building a supply network through human roads. I had accidentally found another network under their feet. That was when 2 Crownspire clerks began buying the remaining approved travel permits from the board. Damon did not look surprised. The next fight was not going to be over monsters. It was going to be over who controlled access to them. Each recorded delivery bought me evidence before free ally registration sealed, so the monster route had to keep producing proof instead of just money. Food stalls that had sold to anyone suddenly had Crownspire priority signs. 2 training yards closed their open hours. The good rooms near the outer gate doubled in price, unless a guild badge was shown. It is legal, Sarah said as she crossed the market with her registry tablet. Theo looked offended by the answer. Damon leaned against a polished supply counter 10 feet away, fresh armor covered his shoulders. A Crownspire emblem had been added over the chest. They are called resources, he said. Useful people get access to them. Theo looked at the preserved fish in his pack, then at Damon. I shook my head before he asked. Nairu stood beside me in humanoid form. Her molten gold eyes stayed on Damon long enough that his smile lost some confidence. Fanu had gone back toward the river market with Nairis. She called it scouting trade opportunities. Naira called it shopping. I had learned not to take sides. Sarah looked at me. Your public results still matter more than popularity, unless I cannot reach the routes. Then use a route they cannot purchase. That was exactly what Nairis had given me. The river market solved the food problem first. The amphibian trader from yesterday wanted glass jars. A marsh group wanted cheap iron needles. Nairis knew a fishing stretch outside Crownspire patrol lines. Theo kept everything fresh inside Preservation Pocket. The things Crownspire controlled were expensive because humans had agreed they were important. The things monsters wanted were often sitting in discount bins. A merchant handed me 3 boxes of cracked ceramic jars no human alchemist wanted. I traded them for river medicine and smoked fish worth several times more inside the wall. The merchants stared at the return pile. You traded broken jars for this? They wanted containers. Theo nodded. Weaponized customer service. Nairu arrived in time to hear that. I dislike those words. Theo stopped branding. That was apparently when Crownspire decided I was more useful inside the guild than outside it. A messenger found me at the market. He handed me a black card edged in gold. Crownspire requests a private discussion concerning your dragon association. Naira looked at the card. I already dislike this. The offer chamber was cleaner than any place we had entered since reaching the frontier. One wall displayed weapons. Another displayed property maps. A long table held contract crystals and sealed food samples. Damon was already there. Of course he was. A Crownspire director sat at the head of the table. He did not bother insulting me. That made him more dangerous than the boys who laughed. Ren Calder. Yeah, your results are unusual, so I keep hearing. He gestured toward an open case. Gold bars sat inside beside a guild badge. Crownspire can offer housing, unrestricted route access, training support, food allocation, and full trial sponsorship. Theo would have fainted at the number in the case. I almost did. The director continued. In return, the guild receives management authority over your high-rank monster contracts. Nairu's tail moved once behind her. I do not have monster contracts. We understand your arrangement is unconventional. No. The director paused. Damon laughed from the wall. Stop pretending this is complicated. She follows you and fights for you. When she chooses to, that is still a contract. Nairu said something very quietly. The director looked at me. What did she say? I looked at Naira. The offer was about her. So I did the thing everyone in the room seemed determined not to do. You can ask her. The director frowned. Through you, sure. He faced Naira. Crown Spire can provide superior territory, food, medical treatment, and legal protection. I translated every word without changing the tone. The director continued. In exchange, we would acquire the transferable rights attached to your current handler arrangement. I translated that too. Nairu stared at him. What transferable rights? I gave him her exact question. The director tapped one finger against the table. Her service rights. Nairu looked at me, then at Damon, then back at the director. I am not his property. I translated. The director tried again. Then consider it voluntary relocation. Nairu smiled. It was not friendly. I am already where I chose to be. I translated that line exactly. The room went silent. Damon pushed off the wall. That is impossible. Nairu's horns angled slightly toward him. She is an SSS-class monster, Damon said. She does not follow a guy with zero combat output because she likes his personality. Nairu spoke before I could react. He listens better than you. I translated. The director's eyes moved to Damon. Damon's face went red. For 1 second, I considered not enjoying it. Then Fanu's influence won. Damon pointed at me. He is doing something to them. Mind control, hidden contract, something. Sarah stood in the doorway. I had not heard her enter. That is a testable claim, she said. Damon turned. The director leaned back. Naira looked pleased. I was less pleased because I had learned what Sarah meant by testable. Sarah raised her tablet. If Ren is controlling her, recorded disagreement under pressure should expose it. And if I am not? I asked. Then the record protects your claim better than this conversation will. The director closed the gold case. The sound hurt more than I expected. That was a lot of money. Nairu noticed. Regret? She asked. Only the food allocation. Good answer. The guild had tried to turn her into a resource line. She had answered for herself. I had lost the easy money and gained something harder to purchase. A public refusal nobody in Crownspire could honestly call mine. Sarah motioned toward the door. Tomorrow, we test the difference between influence and choice. Damon smiled again because he thought a controlled field would finally expose me. Naira smiled too because she had understood what he had not. She was going to be allowed to say no where everyone could hear it. Every public result before registration sealed either protected the free allies or strengthened the argument to expel them. Sarah's test ground looked designed by someone who hated shortcuts. A white stone corridor ran between 2 observation towers. Silver ward arches crossed the path every 20 feet. 6 civilian volunteers waited behind the starting rail with padded helmets and no weapons. Nairu stared at the arches. Her injured wing twitched once. Damon stood with the observers above us. Crownspire armor covered him from throat to boots now. He looked much happier when the rules were written by humans. Sarah raised her registry tablet. This test records every request Ren makes and every response Naira gives. She pointed toward the corridor. The objective is simple. Escort all 6 civilians to the far gate. A silver barrier rose behind us. No domination collar. No handler seal. No hidden assistance. Damon folded his arms. So we finally get to see what happens when she has to obey him. Nairu looked up at him. She keeps using that word, she said. I translated. A few registry clerks looked at Damon instead of us. Sarah continued. The wards will suppress high-rank transformation output inside the corridor. Nairu can still fight. She cannot simply flatten the course. That seems unfair, Theo called from behind the observer rail. Sarah did not look at him. It is a safety test. That did not answer me. The first gate opened. 3 stone sentries unfolded from the walls ahead. Each carried a blunt crystal arm meant to knock people off the marked path instead of kill them. A row of blue lights appeared along the center lane. Sarah spoke through the overhead crystal. Fast route is center. Slow route is maintenance left. I looked at Naira. Center? She watched the silver arches pulse. Then she looked at her old wing wound. No. The answer carried through the Luth algorithm cleanly. I translated it. The observation tower went quiet. Damon leaned toward the rail. What do you mean, no? Nairu ignored him. That middle arch is cycling too low, she told me. If I open my wing to shield them, the ward will catch the scar. It will tear the membrane open again. I looked at the center path. It was faster. It was also the path Sarah's test clearly expected me to choose. Then we take maintenance. Sarah's voice came down immediately. Ren. The center lane has the highest projected success rate. Not for her. Damon laughed once. He cannot even get his own monster to follow the optimal route. Nairu's eyes narrowed. I translated his sentence because she asked what he said. Her reply came instantly. I am not his monster. I translated that too. Sarah stopped writing for half a second. Then she tapped her tablet again. Recorded. The maintenance gate opened. The path narrowed to a ledge along the outer wall. The 6 civilians had to move single file. Below us, the test floor dropped into a trench filled with soft arrest foam. Nobody would die from falling. They would still fail the escort. The first stone sentry fired. Nairu moved before I finished hearing the crystal arm charge. She stepped between the bolt and the first civilian. Black scales spread across her forearm. The impact pushed her back one step. The ward above her flashed. Her full dragon aura collapsed before it could expand. She hissed. "Second sentry charges after the floor pulse," she told me. I looked down. Silver lines under the ledge brightened in sequence. Everyone stop. The civilians froze. The second sentry fired where the front volunteer would have been. The bolt hit empty stone. Sarah's tablet chimed above us. Damon stopped smiling. The third sentry unfolded from the opposite wall. Its arm tracked Naira instead of the civilians. "That one is reading me," she said. "Can you bait it?" "Yes." She stepped forward. The sentry turned. "Now." The volunteers ran behind her while the crystal arm followed Nairu's movement. The ledge shook. A maintenance panel broke loose under the last volunteer. He dropped to one knee. His boot slipped over the trench. Nairu turned too fast. Her injured wing opened on instinct. The nearest ward arch flashed silver. She stopped herself before the scar crossed the field. "Do not move," she snapped at me. I did not. She looked at the civilian hanging from the ledge. Then at the ward. "Tell him to give me his left hand." I did. The man reached. Nairu crouched instead of opening her wing. Her tail wrapped the support rail. She leaned far enough over the trench to catch his wrist. The ward never touched the wound. She pulled him back onto the path. The observers made a different sound this time. Not cheering. Something sharper. The sound people make when the result stops matching the explanation they brought with them. We reached the final gate with all 6 civilians. Sarah came down from the tower herself. Sarah looked at me. "Why did you give up the faster lane?" "Because she told me it would hurt her." That made the test harder. Yes. Damon came down the stairs behind her. "So what? She still did what he wanted in the end." Sarah turned the tablet toward him. "No." A new status line appeared across the registry screen. Voluntary high-rank ally. Provisional classification approved. Travel access approved. My own screen turned her team slot permanent. Sarah looked at Naira. "You refused him on record." Nairu folded her arms. "I can do it again if that helps." Theo laughed from the rail. Sarah almost smiled. Almost. Then she looked at me. "This is provisional. The final mass proof still decides whether the category survives registration." The approval had opened the city gates for Nairu. It had also placed our first legal convoy on the public schedule. Nairu looked at the route notice. "Humans finally decide I am not property, and immediately publish where I will be traveling." I looked at the same notice. She had a point. The first convoy would leave under my name and her new status. Nairu's provisional free ally status will expire unless I deliver the final mass proof before registration seals. The first convoy protected by Nairu's new status was attacked before it reached the second ridge. That felt almost insulting in its efficiency. 3 wagons rolled east from the frontier wall. Theo rode on the middle cart with medicine packed inside Preservation pocket. Fenna moved beside the rear wagon in her giant dragon form. Naira walked near the front in humanoid form because full dragon wings made every road guard nervous. I walked between them. Theo looked at the registry seal nailed to the front wagon. Protected trade convoy. He pointed at the empty road ahead. "Do you think the hunters can read?" A black dart struck the wagon beside his head. Theo ducked. I withdraw the question. 5 more darts came from the ridge. Nairu moved first. Her black-scaled arm knocked 2 out of the air. Fenu's wings flared red gold behind us. A wall of heat shimmered across the road. The next volley bent away from the carts. 1 dart hit Nairu's shoulder. It did not pierce deeply. The metal opened anyway. 3 silver hooks snapped out and tried to wrap around her arm. Nairu ripped them free. Her expression changed. "I know this restraint pattern." I looked at the dart in the dirt. The same angular crest from the spear in her wing had been stamped near the base. The hunters came over the ridge in gray coats, not bandits, not desperate scavengers. They moved like a unit. 1 pointed at Naira. Target 1 confirmed. Another pointed at Fenu. Target 2 mobile. Fenu's ears flattened. They numbered me. That seems to be their thing. She showed all her teeth. "Then I will number the burns." The road exploded into motion. Nairu hit the first line head on. She did not need a full dragon form to throw a man across the road. Fenu A disappeared into 3 red gold afterimages. Hunters fired restraint darts at the wrong dragon twice before they understood the trick. I stayed beside the wagons because my contribution to a hunter charge was still being difficult to kill. Then I heard a woman screaming from inside the rear transport, not our wagon. A black hunter carriage had been hidden behind the ridge. Its sides were reinforced with steel ribs. Purple vines covered the inside windows. The hunters heard clicks. I heard words. "Stop touching the left anchor." I turned toward the carriage. A hunter had one gloved hand pressed against a black iron spike driven through a vine knot. The woman inside screamed again. "Idiots. If he shifts that anchor, the whole restraint net tightens." I ran toward the carriage. The nearest hunter raised a short blade. Nairu caught him from the side and put him through a supply crate. "Useful direction?" she asked. "Yes." "Good." I reached the carriage door. 4 iron anchors pinned thick black-purple vine lines to the frame. Inside stood an adult woman from the waist up. Her skin was pale against the dark vines. Deep violet hair fell over one shoulder. Rose-gold eyes tracked every hand near the anchors. Below her waist, a glossy black-purple dragon tail was bound against the carriage floor. 6 long thorned vine limbs had been folded and restrained beside it. A profile card opened on my screen once. Forest Dragon Matriarch. High-rank intelligent monster. Her eyes snapped to me. You understand me? Yes? Then tell your people to stop touching my vines. They are not my people. She stared at the hunter trapped under Nairu's boot, encouraging. I pointed at the anchors. What do I remove? Nothing yet. That answer probably saved my hands. The lower right anchor first. Turn it, do not pull it. I repeated the instruction to Theo. He had reached the carriage with a pry bar. He immediately put the bar down. Turning. The iron spike rotated, one vine line loosened. Upper left next. I followed her order. The hunters realized what we were doing. Their captain shouted from the road. Do not release the specimen. The forest dragon's rose-gold eyes narrowed. Specimen. I translated that word back to her. I heard that one without you. Fair. Fenyu drove the captain backward with a burst of fire. Nairu broke the restraint launcher in his hands. I turned the final anchor. The vine net went slack. The woman inside moved. Not fast. Precise. One vine limb touched the carriage wall. A second touched the road. The black-purple vines that had restrained her lifted like it had been waiting for permission. Every hunter wire on the ridge snapped tight at once. 3 men were yanked off their feet. 2 restraint launchers twisted out of hands. A dart line wrapped around the captain's ankles and hung him upside down from his own anchor post. Theo stared. I like her. The forest dragon stepped out of the carriage. Her human torso straightened over the black-purple tail. Her deep violet hair moved in the wind. She looked at me. My name is Veyru. Ren, I heard. That was slightly concerning. Naira approached. Veyru's vine limbs shifted outward. Nairu stopped before entering their reach. Good. Nobody needed to explain boundaries twice. I held up the restraint dart with the familiar crest. Who are these people? Vera looked at the mark. Hunters who stopped hunting a long time ago. What do they do now? Collect. Fernu walked over in dragon form with a torn hunter cloak in her teeth. She dropped it at Veru's feet. Vera looked at her. Then at Naira. Then at me. You collect too? No. Fennu made a sound suspiciously close to laughter. He says that often. Vera watched me for another second. You freed me. That earns an answer. It does not earn me. Good. Her head tilted. You say that quickly. I have practice. A thin smile touched her mouth. She reached into the broken carriage and pulled out a small black restraint key. Purple lines ran through its center. One introduction. To who? To others wearing marks like mine. I looked at the key. Why only one? Because trust is not a bulk purchase. Nairu smiled at that. Veyru placed the key in my hand. Behind us, the civilians were still staring at the hunters wrapped inside their own wires. Registry horns sounded from the western ridge. Sarah arrived with a response team and stopped when she saw the road. One hunter hung upside down from his own cable. 2 more were pinned under loose vines. Nairu stood between the medicine wagon and the ridge. Benu's fire had burned a clean line across the road without touching a single civilian cart. Sarah looked at Vera, then at the open transport, then at me. The captive did this? Vera understood after I translated. I stopped the people who caged me. Sarah watched the trapped hunters. You could have killed them. Yes. Why didn't you? Veyru's rose-gold eyes moved to the civilians. They were not the people who caged me. Sarah went quiet. That answer mattered more than another lecture about free will. She recorded the scene herself. Voluntary hostile restraint. Civilian casualties. None. Theo leaned over the wagon rail. So the unregistered monster showed more restraint than the registered hunters. Sarah gave him a look. Theo raised both hands. I am only reading the road. A woman from the front cart pointed at Naira. She blocked the darts. Another civilian pointed at Veyru. And she let us leave. The registry guards stopped aiming every weapon at the monsters. Not trust. Not yet. A change in where the barrels pointed. I would take it. Vera reached back into the broken carriage. She pulled out a thin ledger plate with a list of capture routes. Names had been replaced by species and rank. Dragon, Flame Dragon, River Dragon, Forest Dragon. Free ally candidates. Nairu saw the list. Her face hardened. They are building inventory. Sarah took the plate. This route was authorized through a protected command channel. Whose? The seal is hidden. Vera tapped the restraint key in my hand. Not from my vines. Purple lines spread from her fingers and traced a partial route north. Another team slot opened on my screen. The new legal status had not made free monsters safer. It had made them easier to list. Now we had a key, a route, and proof that someone with official access was collecting them. If I failed to get Vera's evidence into Sarah's final public proof before registration sealed, Naira could still be forced outside the wall. The Frontier Hunt qualifier was supposed to prove free allies could work in public. Damon treated it like a funeral he had been invited to enjoy. The qualifier field was split into 3 rescue lanes around a central tower. Each lane held trapped volunteers, moving hazards, and 1 crystal rescue marker worth enough points to swing the ranking. Sarah stood at the judge platform. Crown Spire banners hung behind Damon on the opposite side. Damon rested his sword over one shoulder. Good. Maybe the city finally learns the difference between friends and a team. A shadow crossed the platform. Wind hit first. Then a woman landed on the rail above me. She had fair skin, cloud-white hair ending in cobalt blue tips, and sharp cobalt eyes. 2 enormous white and teal storm wings opened behind her. Her adult humanoid form was athletic and full-figured, with clawed feet gripping the stone rail. The crowd reacted before she spoke. Storm Dragon Queen, one official whispered. She looked down at me. Kia, Ren, I know. That answer was becoming common enough to worry me. Kaya pointed one storm wing toward the eastern rescue lane. I will extract the stranded civilians from that lane. Good. Her eyes narrowed. I did not say I would take commands. I heard you. Then repeat it. You are agreeing to extraction. You are not agreeing to become my soldier. A team slot opened and she smiled at it. Better. Damon laughed loud enough for the front rows. Great team. 1 dragon who says no, 1 flame dragon who does whatever she wants, and now a storm dragon who needs a contract discussion before she moves. Fenu's giant dragon head turned toward him. Nairu looked bored. Kia looked delighted. Is that your rival? Unfortunately, he sounds exhausting. The starting horn interrupted us. The 3 rescue lanes activated at once. Nairu took center. Fenya moved west. Kie launched east. I stayed on the command platform where the love algorithm could reach all 3 at normal range. For the first 30 seconds, it worked. Nairu told me the center barrier was heavier than expected. Fenu reported hunter-shaped constructs hiding among the smoke illusions. KS said the eastern volunteers were moving because the tower floor had started collapsing. 3 voices, 3 problems, 3 reasonable priorities. Then the central tower released its second phase. Every alarm went off together. Nairu spoke. The support beam is failing. Furnish spoke over her. There are 2 false targets and 1 real attacker. Kaya's voice cut across both. My civilians are leaving the marked zone. The love algorithm translated all of it. It did not separate the voices cleanly, meaning piled on meaning until I could hear everything and process almost nothing. The crowd above us heard only 3 monster calls overlapping. Damon heard chaos. I heard too much. Hold the lanes, I said. Get everyone out. Protect the markers. The words came too fast. Naira heard protect the civilians and abandoned the center marker to brace the collapsing support. Fena heard protect the markers and sent 3 fire illusions toward the west crystal, while the real attacker slipped toward a trapped volunteer. Kie heard get everyone out and lifted her assigned civilians off the eastern platform before the official extraction beacon had activated. Every decision made sense. Together, they broke the formation. A red warning flashed over the center lane. Rescue marker lost. The west alarm sounded next. Fennu snapped around. I thought you said protect the marker. I did. Nairu's voice hit at the same time. The people mattered more. Kaya landed hard beside the eastern boundary. My extraction was complete, not according to the beacon. Her wings lifted. You told me to get them out. I know. Another alarm covered my next sentence. Damon's score climbed on the board. He had taken the simplest lane with Crown Spire trainees moving behind his sword. Kill the constructs. Touch the marker. Move on. His score advantage widened because my team had spent the same minute solving 3 different versions of my instructions. I tried again. Naira, cover center. Fenu, draw the attackers. Kia, wait for the beacon. Nairu answered first. Center is already stable. Fena answered over her. Which attackers? Kia answered over both. You are giving orders now. That one landed cleanly. Kia, no. She stepped backward off the platform. Wind caught her before she fell. She rose above the qualifier field and left the active zone. The crowd made the sound I had been waiting not to hear. Laughter. Not because the women were weak. Because Damon's accusations suddenly looked right. He pointed at the board. Free allies. His score sat above mine now. Reliable right up until they disagree. Sarah did not defend me. She should not have. The lost rescue marker remained red on her tablet. The storm dragon had withdrawn. Damon held the event advantage. The result was public. Naira returned to the platform in humanoid form. She did not look angry. That was worse. You heard every word we said, she told me, not properly. Fenu's wings moved behind her. You heard enough to start commanding anyway. That was the part I could not argue with. I had spent half this world telling humans that understanding was not ownership. The moment pressure hit, I had tried turning 3 different women into one clean set of instructions. A love algorithm alert appeared at the edge of my vision. Love algorithm overload detected. Multiple intelligent speakers unresolved. Then another line formed beneath it. New parsing function available. The qualifier is the last mass proof Sarah can use before the free ally registration decision closes. The qualifier field changed in my head. Naira's voice came from center. Clear. Distinct. Fenu's came from west, clear, distinct. Kaya's voice was farther away now, still clear, still angry. The love algorithm had fixed noise, I had to fix the rest. Sarah gave the teams a short reset, while officials repaired the failed rescue marker. Damon's score stayed above mine on the board, he made sure I saw it. Need another upgrade before your girlfriends listen? Nairu looked toward him. I raised one hand, not helping. That was for you, she said, still not helping. Fenu sat on the edge of the staging platform in giant dragon form. Her wings were still. That was how I knew she was annoyed. I started with Naira. I had ordered her to cover a center lane she had already stabilized. Then I admitted I had done the same thing to Fenef by asking for misdirection without naming the threat that mattered. Neither woman argued. That made it worse. Q was the one I had actually driven off, so I went to her. I walked to the eastern edge of the platform. KS circled high above the inactive lane. Kia. She did not answer. I tried again. I was wrong. That got one wing to tilt. You agreed to extraction. I turned that into permission to direct everything after it. Kaya descended to the opposite rail. You also told me to wait after the people were already safe. Because the scoreboard said your timing was wrong. She glanced toward the eastern civilians. One was still hugging another. And the people? They were busy not falling. Kayu's mouth twitched. That answer was less terrible. I stepped back from the rail. I am not asking you to follow my plan. Her eyes sharpened. Then what are you asking? What job do you want? The question changed her face completely. Ka looked across the 3 rescue lanes. Extraction. Only extraction. If someone needs to leave a bad place, I move them. Good. 3 different jobs. No shared command. I nodded. Then I only do one thing. Theo called from behind the observer rail. Customer service? Nairu looked at him. Theo raised both hands. Sorry. I looked at all 3 women. I carry information. You choose what to do with it. Kaya stepped off the rail. Wind held her in place. That sounds more useful. Sarah's voice came over the field. Final rescue lane is opening. 1 marker remains. 1 trapped group remains. Damon laughed from his lane. You are going back in with fewer instructions? Yes, good luck. I do not think that is what you mean. It is not. The horn sounded. Nairu hit the center lane first. She did not wait for me to tell her which wall looked strongest. She picked the wall carrying the largest pressure load and smashed through it in humanoid form before the ward could build a second layer. Fena vanished into red-gold duplicates. 3 false dragons pulled the roaming constructs west. The real Fenyu slipped behind them and opened the trapped group's path. Kua stayed high. She did nothing for several seconds. Damon shouted from across the field. Your storm dragon quit again. Then the rescue platform cracked. Kaya dropped. 1 wing folded around the first civilian. Her other arm caught a second. Wind lifted the remaining 4 onto a safe ledge before the stone disappeared beneath them. No early extraction. No waiting for my permission. Her timing. Multi-voice parse kept every report separate. Nairu said the heavy lane was open. Fena said the constructs were turning back. Kaya said the civilians were secure. I relayed only what the others needed. Naira, west threat moving toward you. Seen. Fenya, extraction is complete. Then I am done being distracting. Kaya, marker is exposed. I do not collect markers. That almost made me laugh. I know. I ran to the exposed crystal myself. 0 combat output did not stop me from touching a rescue marker. The crystal lit under my hand. The entire field flashed gold. Record rescue clear. Fastest voluntary multi-alley rescue recorded. Lost resource recovered. The crowd went quiet first. Then the noise hit. Damon turned toward the board. His score advantage disappeared by more than half in one update. Kaye landed beside me. I said extraction. You did. And next time, I ask first. She held my gaze for 1 beat. Better. Sarah was already walking toward us with the final registration file open on her tablet. Sarah looked at Damon. Same allies, different method. Damon's jaw tightened. They still followed him. Kaya folded her wings. No, we followed the problem. Nairu stopped on my other side. And he finally stopped confusing those things. A few people in the front rows laughed. Not at me this time. Sarah saved the recording. The failed run remains on your file. Good. That made her look at me. If you erase the failure, the second result proves less. For once, Sarah did smile. Correct. Now registration came down to whether the institution would accept what it had witnessed. Sarah made the decision in the registry hall with half the frontier watching through public crystals. Nairu stood on my right. Fenu waited in dragon form near the back wall. Kaya perched on the upper rail because chairs offended her. Theo stood behind me holding 3 folders he had not been asked to hold. Damon stood with Crownspire on the opposite side. The registry recognizes a new classification. A blue-white line appeared over the hall. Free ally status approved. Independent consent recognized. Protected entry approved. Paid contract access approved. The room changed all at once. Some people cheered, some people looked afraid. Some merchants started whispering before the announcement had even finished. Damon stared at the words. So he gets special handler rights. No, I said. Sarah looked at me. I pointed at the screen. If the title turns me into a handler, you just rebuilt the same problem with nicer words. A few registry officials looked uncomfortable. Sarah nodded once. Correct. Nairu leaned toward me. You are learning to reject titles before they become annoying. I have had practice. Theo dropped one folder. Do I get a title? Fernu made a dragon sound from the back. I translated. She suggests storage human. Theo looked offended. That is not legally binding. Sarah moved to the next board before we could make it worse. The raw registration deadline was over. The problems waiting behind it already had names. Frontier Cup at the next opening bell. Hunter Audit Convoy before dusk. Grand Frontier, ranking final at the next sunrise. Emergency Hunter Breach overrides every public event. Theo opened a blank page. I am making a schedule. I did not ask for one. That is why you need one. The Frontier Cup Plaza was louder than the registry hall by an unreasonable amount. Banners covered the outer walls, food stalls filled the lower ring. Competitors showed off weapons, beasts, and sponsor emblems while public score crystals floated above the arena gates. Damon entered with Crownspire first. His silver armor had been polished until it looked brighter than the morning. His hero knight sword came out in a burst of gold light. The crowd loved it, for about 20 seconds. Then Fenyu said my name. I turned. Red gold flame rolled around her giant dragon body. The wide wings folded inward. The huge animal silhouette narrowed. The fire dropped away. An adult woman stepped out of it. Fenna had fair skin and a full curving figure. Copper orange hair fell down her back in a bright sheet. Ruby eyes matched the red gold horns above her head. Long burning wings fanned behind her like living fire. The plaza went silent. Fenyu looked down at her new hands. Humans make such strange faces. I translated automatically. The silence broke. People started shouting all at once. Another humanoid high rank. She can transform? That is the Flame Dragon Queen? Damon lowered his sword because nobody was looking at it anymore. Fennu walked straight toward me. She stopped close enough that one tail curled behind my back. You are doing that on purpose, I said. Obviously. Nairu appeared beside my other shoulder. Her molten gold eyes moved from Fenu's tail to Fenu's face. Fenu smiled sweetly. Problem? No. Nairu's answer was too fast. Fenu moved half a step closer to me. Nairu moved half a step closer too. Theo watched from a safe distance. I am not documenting this. You document everything, I said. Not things that can kill me. Fenyu tilted her head toward Naira. Which event are you entering? Nairu folded her arms. The next one Ren needs. Fenu's smile widened. Interesting. That was apparently enough jealousy to become scheduling pressure. A sponsor representative pushed through the crowd with a contract slate already open. Lady Fenu, Crownspire can offer private housing and appearance fees. Fenaha looked at me. Appearance fees? They want to pay you to stand near their banner. She looked at the Crownspire banner, then at Damon, then back at the representative. No, I translated. The man tried to hand me the slate instead. I did not take it. Sarah stepped between us before he could try a third angle. Free ally status means the offer goes to the person accepting it. Fenyu tapped one finger against her chin. Tell him I will stand near his banner if Nairu gets to choose what happens to it afterward. The representative left. Nairu looked at Fenyu. That was almost generous. I am learning diplomacy. The cupboard activated above us. First category, direct elimination. Points awarded per confirmed monster kill. Damon's smile returned immediately. Of course it did. The first public event after free ally recognition rewarded the exact thing his sword was built to do. The first lane opened with 6 armored trial beasts behind separate gates. Damon crossed the starting line before the announcer finished explaining the scoring. His hero knight sword cut through the first beast's core in one strike. The second lasted longer because it moved. The third lasted less because Damon had adjusted. Crownspire's side of the arena got louder with every kill. By the time my route appeared, Damon's name already sat at the top of the board. He looked across the field at me. Try not to negotiate with the scoreboard. The crowd laughed. My assignment appeared underneath his. Supply road disruption. Threat grade medium. Kill value low. Efficiency bonus available. Damon checked it and laughed harder. They gave you road maintenance. Theo looked at my board. Technically, road maintenance pays. Thank you, I was trying to help. Nairu and Fenna remained outside the lane because this objective did not require a combat escort yet. Fenu was still in humanoid form and enjoying how many people kept staring at her wings. Nairu was enjoying how much that annoyed me less than it annoyed her. The supply road sat beyond the Eastern Cup gate. 2 freight wagons had been overturned beside a wall of broken stone. A massive ridgeback burrower stood in the middle of the road. It had 4 heavy legs, a plated brown back, and a blunt horn built for moving earth. 3 armed workers were hiding behind one wagon. The burrower slammed its horn into the road. Stone cracked. One worker pointed at it. That thing has attacked every cart since yesterday. What have you tried, Spears? The burrower roared. I heard something very different. Stop driving over my eggs. I looked at the road. Then I looked at the workers. Where did you build this section? The oldest worker frowned. Over an old drainage trench. The burrower roared again. My nest was here first. I walked closer. The workers grabbed my sleeve. You do not have a weapon. I know, that was not reassurance. The burrower lowered its horn. I stopped outside charging distance. You have eggs under the road? Its head snapped toward me. You hear me? Yes. The workers heard a growl. I heard relief trying very hard to sound angry. How many? 4. Can they be moved? No. That removed the easiest solution. I looked at the road again. A dry maintenance path curved around the hill 20 yards east. It was narrow but intact. I pointed. If the carts use that route until the eggs hatch, will you stop breaking the road? The burrower stared at me. What do I get? People stop driving over your children. It considered this acceptable. Theo's voice came through the observer crystal. That might be the best trade you have made. The cup officials were less impressed at first. The objective says, clear the road, one said. It will be clear. You did not defeat the monster. That was not the objective. The official checked the wording. His face changed. The workers moved the first wagon onto the maintenance path. The burrower stepped away from the main road. The second wagon passed. The third followed. The road reopened without one attack. The cupboard chimed above the gate. Objective cleared. No monster casualty, no civilian injury, efficiency bonus awarded, rescue bonus awarded. My score jumped, not above Damon. Close enough that his smile disappeared. The commentator had to check the result twice. Ren Calder has cleared a boss disruption objective without defeating the target. The crowd made the same confused noise I had heard after Nairu's first public refusal. The scoring system had expected violence. The love algorithm had found a cheaper answer. Fena met me at the exit. You asked what it wanted. Yes, dangerously seductive. Nairu appeared behind her. He asked about eggs. Fenu smiled. You underestimate his range. I kept walking. Lena waited in the corridor behind the arena. She had changed clothes since the wilderness. Clean frontier gray replaced the torn school uniform. She still looked tired. Ren. I stopped. Fenyu looked at her. Nairu looked at her. This was going to become unbearable in seconds. I need to talk to him alone, Lena said. Naira looked at me. Do you? I can handle a hallway. Fenyu sighed dramatically. We will be nearby. That did not sound comforting. They left anyway. Lena waited until their footsteps were gone. I was scared. I said nothing. I did not know Damon was really going to leave you. That made me answer. You were standing beside him when he said I would not survive the night. Her eyes dropped. I thought he was trying to scare you. You still walked away. Her voice softened. I made one scared decision. There it was. She was shrinking 3 days of choices into one bad moment. Lena's eyes filled. I regret it. I believe you. That surprised her. Then maybe we can start over. No. The answer came easily. I do not hate you. I am not going back to a relationship where my value changes with the number on a screen. I am not asking because of your rank. Maybe not. But you are asking after I came back. She had no answer. I left her in the corridor without making it a show. Theo was waiting around the corner pretending very badly that he had not heard anything. He looked at me. I am retiring every girlfriend joke I had prepared. Good decision. Across the plaza, Damon saw Lena leave the corridor crying. He looked at me, then at Fenyu, then at Naira. His expression changed into something I recognized immediately. He had finally decided he understood the part of my ability he could copy. The next cup objective opened on a frozen platform built over a blue ravine. A woman waited at the center with fair skin, pale sapphire hair, lavender eyes, and silver scales running from her hips into a long frost-white dragon tail. She wore no collar. She also looked bored enough to freeze the first person who annoyed her. The board named her a frost dragon noble. Damon stepped onto the platform before the officials finished reading the objective. He lowered his sword. He softened his voice. He even copied the little half smile I used when Fenai was trying to bait me into saying something stupid. Fenai covered her mouth with both hands. Nairu did not bother. He practiced. Theo looked between us. That makes it worse. Damon stopped a safe distance from the dragon woman. You must be tired of living out here alone. She stared at him. He continued. Crownspire can give you private quarters. No reaction. Renair food. Still nothing. Lol. Protection. The woman slowly looked at me. What is the shiny man doing with his mouth? I almost felt bad for him, almost. He thinks he is flirting with you. Her lavender eyes widened. Then she laughed. Not a polite laugh, not a quiet laugh. She bent forward and held one hand against her stomach. Half the platform heard it. Damon's smile tightened. What did she say? She asked what you were doing. Tell her I am offering a better future. I translated it exactly. The dragon woman stopped laughing long enough to look Damon over from boots to sword. Then she answered, ask him why he is bargaining for me like livestock before he has even asked my name. The crowd broke. Even Fenyu had to lean against Nairu. Damon's face went red. I translated anyway. He looked at me like I had changed the words. You made that sound worse. I made it sound like what she said. The frost dragon tapped one claw against the ice. My name is Selka. Damon recovered enough to raise his chin. Then Selka should understand I am offering status. Selku smiled. I already have status. A ring of frost climbed the platform around her. The official crystal chimed. The actual objective appeared. A ceremonial crest stolen from Selku's shrine had been recovered by Cup Scouts. Returning it earned a minor relationship bonus. Claiming the bounty attached to it earned a much larger point reward. Damon looked at the score. I looked at Selku. She looked at the silver-blue crest locked inside the evidence case. That belongs to my brood. That was enough. I crossed the platform and opened the case. The cup official raised a hand. Candidate Ren, claiming the item forfeits the bounty. I know. Damon laughed behind me. You are throwing away points for jewelry. Selka's expression changed. Not softer, sharper. She watched me carry the crest to her with both hands. I stopped outside the ring of frost. May I enter? She glanced at Damon, then back at me. You ask before stepping into a boundary. I learned that lesson early. Nairu made a pleased sound behind us. Selka opened the frost ring. I placed the crest in her palm. The ice around it brightened immediately. Selka closed her fingers. Safe passage through my territory is yours. The official crystal chimed again. A smaller reward appeared beside my name. Damon's score stayed higher. The crowd murmured like I had made a mistake. Selka was not finished. And one audience. She looked directly at me. Future use. Fenyu stopped laughing. Nairu's wings shifted once. That was somehow funnier than Damon. Sarah stepped onto the platform before the next cup lane opened. Veyru came with her. The forest dragon matriarch carried the restraint key we had taken from the convoy. Sarah placed it beside the metal seal attached to Selku's stolen crest. The same black groove ran through both. Nairu moved closer. That mark was on my spear. Vera touched one finger to the groove. And on the transport anchors. Sarah's expression flattened. A protected program name appeared beneath the registry file. Commander Solvarden, Dragon Hunter Command. A second file opened beneath it. Command Amplifier Prototype. Living vocal channel required. Overload risk. Speech loss. Sarah checked that line twice. Theo leaned over her shoulder. That sounds less like equipment and more like a warning. It is both, Sarah said. Vera touched the edge of the file with one claw. There is another line. The lower record was more heavily sealed. Apex Containment Asset. Transfer authority restricted to Commander Varden. No species name, no location, just one red status. Raw mode. Veyru tapped the identical command groove. That was enough for me. The laughter around the platform died. I had heard the name before. Everybody in the frontier had. Varden was the man people praised when a monster attack disappeared before reaching a town. Sarah stared at the file. This program is supposed to restrain confirmed hostile monsters. The cup stopped feeling important. A length of black vine dropped from Veyru's hand. It formed a crude map on the ice. A line of hunter wagons was already moving along the northern road. Nairis had sent the warning through the river network. The convoy was collecting what its orders called dangerous free allies. Damon looked at the cupboard. I looked at the road. He smiled because he thought I was about to choose wrong again. Nairis came out of the river channel while the cupboard was still updating. She did not look at Damon. She looked at me. Behind her, two smaller monster representatives waited at the waterline with restraint burns around their wrists. Theo saw them first. Sarah saw the marks second. Nairis spoke through the love algorithm. The hunters took another group from the marsh road. One of the smaller monsters added something fast. Then the other spoke over him. Multi-voice parse separated both voices before they tangled. They are using sealed wagons. They are heading north. Nairis finished the message. They asked for you. Theo stopped writing. Sarah looked toward the crown spire side of the arena. Not the registry? Nairis shook her head. Not crown spire. Her eyes stayed on me. You. That choice landed harder than a scoreboard. The cup official called my next scoring window. Damon heard it. He also heard Nairis. He leaned on his sword. Go ahead. His smile came back. Save every monster in the forest. The board flashed his name above mine. I will finish the cup. I handed Theo my scoring token. Keep it. Theo looked at the token, then at the road. Right. Sarah stepped in front of me. If you leave now, the board records the window as abandoned. I know. Then make the rescue worth the record. That was as close to permission as Sarah ever got. We left. The hunter audit convoy had split before we reached the northern ridges. That was smart. One group dragged cages toward the river road. Another climbed toward the old quarry. A third took the high pass with civilian prisoners mixed among the monsters. Vera stood on a rock above the junction. 3 routes. Nairu flexed her scarred wing. I take the quarry. Kaya opened her white and teal wings. I take the high pass. Fena's wings spread behind her. River road. Nairis looked at me. My people are in the first wagon. I nodded. No shared command. That got Q's attention. Good. I pointed only after everyone had spoken. Nairu breaks the quarry escort. Because I choose the quarry, yes. Kaya extracts civilians. Because I choose the high pass, yes. Fenyu grinned. And I get to make the river hunters regret wearing flammable coats. No burning prisoners. You ruin everything. Then they split. For the first minute, the plan worked. Nairu's roar rolled across the quarry. Kaya disappeared above the ridge. Fenyu's red-gold fire flashed between the river trees. I stayed near Veyru and Theo at the center route. Then the hunters collapsed the communication lines. Black stakes erupted from the ground. A barrier wall rose between the ridges. Nairu vanished behind stone. Kaya's voice disappeared in the wind. Fenyu's next shout reached me as noise without meaning. I ran to the ridge edge. Naira, nothing. Normal speech could not cross that distance. The love algorithm had always needed the other person to hear me. Below, a sealed cage wagon turned toward a tunnel. Nairis's people were inside. I could hear their panic because they were close. I could not reach the women who could stop the wagon. That was the problem. The love algorithm answered with an update. Rezunan's Kari unlocked. My throat went cold. Not stronger, farther. I understood the rule the instant it settled. Open air only. No sealed cage. No barrier built to kill resonance. I faced the quarry ridge. Naira. The word left my mouth normally. Then a second layer carried underneath it. The resonance stretched across the open valley. Nairu's head snapped toward me from the far ridge. I hear you. Kaya answered from above the clouds. So do I. Fen-U's laughter came from the river road. Oh, that is useful. The hunters heard only me shouting names. The monsters heard language. Quarry wagon is turning east. Nairu launched. High pass prisoners are behind the third rider. Q folded her wings and dropped. Fenya, Nairis's people, are in the first river wagon, already moving. So Veyru did what I could not. Her vines ran under the wagons. She pulled the axle pins instead of attacking the cages. The first wagon dropped sideways. Fena hit the escort. Nairis tore the rear doors open. The second route broke when Naira landed in front of the horses. The third ended when Q carried 2 civilians off a collapsing ledge at once. People came out of the convoy faster than the hunters could regroup. Monster families, human prisoners. 2 registry workers who had been taken for objecting to the audit list. Theo stopped preserving trade goods and started preserving medicine. Sarah arrived with the official record crystal. She watched a freed marsh monster point at me. That is the human we called. Another answered. He came. That spread, not through a board, through people. Viru climbed onto the overturned command wagon. She pulled a sealed case from beneath the driver's seat. Inside were route lists, capture orders, free ally names, and a command network diagram with Varden's program seal across the bottom. Theo looked back toward the city. The cut board was visible from the ridge. My name had dropped below Damon's again. He had finished the scoring window I abandoned. I felt almost nothing. The people around us were alive. Sarah checked the convoy record twice. Then she looked at me. The Grand Frontier Board is going to answer this. With what? A test. I already knew I would hate it. They are going to ask whether your ability matters when none of these women are standing beside you. The convoy was stopped. The Grand Frontier final opened at the next sunrise, and Damon still held the ranking I had just sacrificed. Sarah checked the conditions in front of the arena. No Naira. Naira folded her arms. No Fenyu. Fenyu's ears flattened. No Kia. Kia looked almost offended they thought she needed to be listed. No Theo. Theo raised one hand. I feel strangely important. Sarah ignored him. No stored food, no trade goods, no monster escort. She looked directly at me. You enter Selku's territory alone. Damon laughed from the crownspire rail. Finally. He tapped the flat of his sword against one shoulder. Let's see how useful talking is when the women doing the fighting stay here. I stepped through the ice gate. The cold hit first, not magical damage, just cold. My coat was good enough for a city street and bad enough for a mountain full of snow. Behind me, the gate sealed. Ahead, white cliffs cut the land into narrow blue valleys. The remote observer crystal floated above the entrance. I could feel thousands of people watching through it. That was fine. If I failed, I wanted the reason recorded. If I succeeded, I wanted that recorded too. Selka waited beside a frozen river. Her pale sapphire hair moved in the wind. Silver scales covered the long dragon tail coiled beneath her. She looked at my empty hands. You came without tribute. It was against the rules. And without the flame dragon. She is taking that personally. Selka almost smiled. Then she pointed downstream. The river under the ice was gray, not blue, gray. My brew drinks there. A smaller dragon lay near the bank with dull scales and slow breathing. The humor left the conversation. What happened, human shrine? She pointed toward the far mountain. They built something above the spring. What do you want me to do? Stop it. That sounds reasonable. You cannot pass through my territory until you do. Also reasonable. I looked toward the mountain. A direct path would have crossed 3 monster territories. Selka already knew that. She was testing whether I would ask her to solve it for me. I did not. The first group found me before the river bend. 6 frost wolves stood across the gorge. Their leader growled. I heard words, turn around. Why? The wing things poisoned the lower water. He meant the crystal moth colony ahead. I could have argued. Instead, I asked what he had actually seen. Dead reeds, sick pups, silver dust on the water. That sounded like evidence, not proof. Let me ask them. The wolf bared his teeth. You will walk into their nest? That is the current bad plan. He moved aside 1 step. Bring back an answer. Not permission, a condition. Good enough. The crystal moths lived under a shelf of blue stone. Hundreds of wings covered the ceiling. When they spoke together, multi-voice parse turned the sound into layered whispers. They did not poison the river. They had abandoned their normal feeding ground because the shrine runoff killed the ice reeds. The silver dust was shed wing powder from a colony forced downstream. Then why are the wolves' pups sick? A moth matriarch settled on a stone. Because they drink below the shrine. That matched. She gave me another message. Tell the wolves the colony would return uphill if the water became clean. I carried it back. The wolf leader listened, his ears lowered. Then he stepped aside completely. 1 pass. The observer crystal brightened above the gorge. Sarah's voice came through it. Temporary passage recorded. Damon answered from somewhere near the arena feed. 1 scared pack moving aside does not make him useful. The wolf leader heard only noise. He looked at me. Is the sword human insulting us? Yes. Tell him he is welcome to test the pass himself. I looked up at the crystal. I am not translating that. Sarah sounded almost amused. I already recorded the tone. The second path ended at a stone bridge. A herd of stonehorn monsters blocked it. They were huge, goat-like. Gray plates covered their shoulders. The oldest one lowered 2 mineral horns toward me. No wolves. I am not a wolf. You carry wolf permission. Apparently monster politics could get worse. Why no wolves? They steal salt lichen from our ledge. That was a real problem, not the poison problem, different. I went back far enough for Rizunan's Kari to reach the wolf gorge. I did not summon anyone. I carried a message. The wolves admitted they had been taking the lichen because their normal mineral spring tasted wrong after the shrine opened. The stonehorn herd wanted the theft stopped. The wolves wanted clean minerals. The moths knew an abandoned upper shelf where salt lichen still grew. I relayed the trade. The moths would mark the upper shelf. The stonehorns would allow 1 wolf gathering path. The wolves would stop taking from the herd's ledge. Nobody joined me, nobody followed me. They simply stopped blocking the same road. The stonehorn elder lifted 1 hoof. The bridge opened. I stepped onto it alone. Halfway across, a slab shifted under my boot. I dropped to 1 knee and caught the edge with both hands. The stonehorn elder could have lifted me. He did not. That was part of the trial too. I pulled myself up and crossed under my own strength. Far above, the observer crystal flashed. Sarah's voice came through clearly. 3 independent groups granted passage. Damon answered immediately, because Selka told them to. No. Sarah did not sound uncertain anymore. Selka has made no contact since the trial began. The arena feed went quiet for 1 beat. Then Sarah added the part Damon did not want recorded. No handler mark, no command signal, no combat coercion. The mountain path ended at the shrine. White human stone stood in the middle of monster territory. A metal pipe disappeared into the spring. Gray runoff leaked from its base. Dead ice reeds lay frozen along the bank. A young dragon had dragged itself far enough from the poisoned water to leave a dark line in the snow. That made the problem feel less like a test and more like what it actually was. Somebody had built this machine here, somebody had left it running. A guardian construct stood in front of the control wheel. It was twice my height. Stone armor, human sword, no voice inside it. The love algorithm gave me nothing. For the first time in the trial, talking could not touch the thing blocking my path. The guardian did not speak. That meant I could not persuade it. The trial was supposed to prove whether the love algorithm mattered. It did not say every problem had to be solved by conversation. I backed away from the shrine and looked at the pipe instead. So I asked them what it did. Rizunan's Kari reached the nearest open gorge. The wolf leader answered first. Metal wheel turns when the sun touches the upper glass. The moth colony added another detail. Gray water starts after the bell. The stonehorn elder gave me the part I needed. Before the gray water, steam leaves the rear vent. Light links. Steam. Bell, run off. The guardian only moved when somebody crossed the front stones. So I stopped using the front. I climbed the side of the shrine, not elegantly. My fingers went numb halfway up. The observer crystal followed me from above. I reached the rear vent and found a pressure latch beside it. Human writing covered the plate. I could not read the local technical terms. I did not need to. I waited. A thin white plume escaped the vent. The latch released for one breath. I pulled it. The shrine shuddered. The bell never rang. The guardian moved anyway. Its stone sword cut through the roof where my shoulder had been. I dropped behind the rear vent. The second swing hit the pipe housing instead of me. Metal split. Gray water sprayed across the stone. For 1 second, I thought I had made the poison worse. I kicked the broken housing away from the spring channel. The gray stream died. Clear water burst through the pipe behind it. The guardian turned toward me for a third strike. Its arm stopped halfway. The machine had lost pressure. The stone sword hung over my head. I stayed under it until I was certain it was not moving again. Water rushed down the mountain. Blue returned to the spring almost immediately. I sat on the roof and waited for my hands to stop shaking. Selku arrived before I climbed down. She did not rush. Frost spread ahead of her dragon body as she crossed the stone. She touched the clean water with one claw. Then she looked downstream. The sick brood dragon had lifted its head. Selku's expression changed. That was the first time I had seen relief beat pride on her face. You kept the promise. I said I would fix the water. Humans say many things. So do monsters. Her eyes narrowed. That was almost charming. I will write it down. She laughed once, not as hard as she had laughed at Damon. Enough. The trial board flashed above the remote crystal. Objective cleared. Combat output used. None. I looked at Selka. The gate should open now. It will. She moved beside me. I glanced at her. You do not have to come. I know. That answer felt familiar. Selku folded her arms. You repaired the water without asking me to fight your machine. Yes. She tilted her head. I will escort you. That was when I noticed Nairu's voice coming through the observer channel. Very calm. Banu started laughing somewhere behind her. Selku looked toward the crystal. Is the dragon listening? She is. Nairu answered before I translated. I am observing. Selka's smile became formal, then observed carefully. That was not helping. We reached the arena gate together. The board had sent me in alone. The doors opened with a frost dragon noble beside me. The crowd reaction hit before the announcer could speak. People stood. Crownspire's section went quiet. Lena stared. Theo put both hands over his face like he had predicted this exact problem. Nairu stood near the rail with her wings folded too tightly. Selka stopped beside me, not behind me, beside me. The board updated. Grand Frontier qualification. Granted. Sarah checked the result twice. Then she raised the witness crystal toward Selka. For the record, did Ren order you to escort him? Selku looked at the crystal. No. Did he offer payment for the escort? No. Did he threaten your territory? Selka's expression cooled. He repaired the water humans poisoned. Sarah lowered the crystal. Voluntary escort confirmed. A team slot opened beside her name. Damon heard the entire exchange. His smile came back only when he looked at the scoreboard. Then Sarah looked at him. Damon saw the number and smiled. There, he pointed at the board. All that, and you are still behind me. The crowd followed his finger. Selka looked at Damon's score, then at me. Is that the man who tried to purchase me? Yes. He seems very proud of being temporarily first. Nairu made a small approving sound. That might have been the first thing the two of them agreed on. The next arena lane opened before Damon could answer. A high-rank trial monster came through the gate. It hit the ground wrong, not aggressive, panicked. Its claws tore grooves through the stone while its body twisted toward the crowd. Everyone else heard a roar. I heard words. Please. The monster slammed its own head against the barrier. Stop my body. The final ranking window is open now, and the next active crisis can decide the board before the institution closes the result. The arena monster hit the barrier hard enough to bend it. The crowd cheered because they thought the final lane had started. The Iron Man basilisk turned toward Damon. Damon drew his glowing sword. Finally. I stepped toward the rail. Do not kill it. Damon laughed without looking at me. You still think every monster wants a conversation. He rushed in. His sword hit the basilisk across one armored shoulder. The strike was clean. The monster barely felt it. Its real voice shook inside the roar. Something is inside the arena. I looked past its body, not at the claws, not at the teeth, at the way it moved. Every time the basilisk tried to turn away from Damon, its spine snapped back toward him. The movement happened with the same rhythm as the restraint pulse I had heard from the convoy cages. I pointed toward the eastern judging pillar, Sarah. She was already watching me. The command is coming from the arena. Damon raised his sword again. Sarah slammed her examiner's seal onto the control desk. Kill order suspended. The whole arena went quiet. Damon stopped mid-step. Sarah pointed at the pillar. Node scan now. That mattered more than any cheer. She had heard my diagnosis and acted before I had proved it. Blue scan lines crossed the arena stone. A black pulse appeared under the eastern pillar. The basilisk screamed. Eared. The command surged before anyone could reach it. The basilisk's rear legs drove toward the spectator barrier. Its head twisted away so hard blood appeared at the corner of one eye. Do not let me reach them. The first row started running. I used Rizunen's Kari. Naira, under the pillar. Her wings opened above the upper rail. Finally, something simple. Nairu dropped. Damon shouted after her. That is my lane. Nobody listened. Fenyu vaulted the rail in a streak of red-gold light. She made 3 copies of a fleeing official and sent them across the empty side of the arena. The basilisk's forced eyes tracked movement. Its body changed direction. Selka hit the floor from the opposite side. Ice locked around the basilisk's rear claws. The monster dragged her almost a full body length before the frozen stone held. I kept speaking to the real voice inside the roar. Can you choose anything? 1 step. Give me the step when Naira reaches the pillar. The basilisk's front legs shook. Damon raised his sword like he could solve the whole scene by hitting harder. Move. Sarah's order stopped him. This lane is now an active preservation event. That changed the score rules in front of everyone. Damon heard it, so did Crownspire. Nairu reached the eastern pillar. Beni flashed across the basilisk's vision in a ribbon of red-gold fire. The monster's forced body followed the illusion instead of Damon. Selkus slid across the stone and froze the basilisk's rear claws to the floor. She did not attack its body. She bought its stillness. I kept speaking. Can you resist 1 step? For 1 breath. Then give me 1 breath. The basilisk's front legs stopped. Nairu hit the eastern pillar. Stone exploded outward. A black metal node flashed beneath it. The restraint crest burned across its surface. Same design, same program. Nairu crushed it under 1 claw. The basilisk collapsed. Not dead, free. For 1 second it only breathed. Then it slowly pulled its claws out of Selka's ice. The front row stopped running. A child behind the barrier stared at the monster that had almost reached him. The basilisk looked toward the child, its head lowered. Not submission. An apology. Then it turned to me. Thank you. Sarah's witness crystal captured the whole thing. The arena board flashed. Active crisis resolved. Controlled target preserved. Command node destroyed. Decisive objective bonus awarded. My name moved above Damon's. The sound from the stands changed. It was not cheering yet. It was the noise people make when an argument disappears underneath them. One Crownspire official stood and demanded a score review. The Grand Frontier judge pointed at the preserved basilisk. Kill points are lower than an active command node recovery. The official sat back down. Theo started laughing. Lena did not. She was staring at the basilisk, then at me. Damon stared at the board. He had spent the whole event proving how much force he could bring to a problem. The decisive lane had rewarded the person who understood what the problem actually was. Then Damon looked at Selka. That was his mistake. He walked toward her with his sword lowered and Crownspire's crest shining across his chest. Selka. She looked at me. Translate this carefully. I already knew I was going to hate it. Damon spread one hand. Crownspire can still give you a private estate, protection, status, and a place beside the strongest fighter here. I translated every word. Then she laughed, not politely. The sound carried through the same arena that had just watched the basilisk choose not to attack. Nairu folded her wings and watched him with open interest. Fanu covered her mouth. Selku wiped one tear from the corner of her eye. He is still doing it. Doing what? Offering me a better cage. Damon tried again. I am offering you a future. Selku looked directly at him. No. One word. No speech. No bargain. She crossed the arena. She passed Damon. She passed the Crownspire officials. Then she stopped beside me. Not behind me. Beside me. Across the lower stands, Lena went completely still. The freed basilisk pushed itself upright behind us. Damon flinched and raised his sword again. The monster looked at him. Then it deliberately turned its head away. The first row saw it. The judges saw it. Crownspire saw it. That got a bigger reaction than the broken pillar. One of the Grand Frontier judges leaned over the rail. His hand moved to the scoring crystal. Preservation bonus confirmed. Another line appeared under my name. The ranking board began its final calculation. High above it, Commander Solvarden watched without clapping. The board did not take long. Grand Frontier, ranking complete. First place, Ren Calder. Direct combat output, none. For 1 second, the arena forgot how to make noise. Then people stood. Lena looked from the board to me. I was wrong. I heard her. I did not answer. That part of the story was already over. Sarah raised the official crystal. Grand Frontier first representative confirmed. The board sealed. Crownspire could argue later. The result was already public. Then Commander Solvarden stood. The cheering thinned because everyone knew the name. He had watched the entire final from the highest authority gallery. Congratulations, Renkaldr. Then he looked across my free allies. A single unregulated human has assembled high-rank monster alliances outside normal command structures. They are not mine. That is exactly the problem. Varden looked down at Damon. Then he tossed a black metal bracer into the arena. The same command crest burned along its edge. Damon stared at it. Lena took one step back. Damon, do not. 3 days ago, her choosing him had been his favorite proof that he mattered. Now she was the person asking him to stop. He looked away from her. What is this? A command amplifier, Varden said. The Crownspire section went quiet. Sarah stepped forward. That prototype carries a vocal channel overload warning. We had seen the same file. Speech loss, neural burn. Damon heard her. He looked at Selka standing beside me. Then at the ranking board. Then at the bracer. Nairu said one word. Do not. Damon fastened it around his wrist. I am done asking. That was his choice. Varden smiled. Only then did he explain what the arena had become. A weapon that chooses when to obey is not security. She is not a weapon. No, Varden said. She is stronger than one. Black panels opened along the arena walls. Sarah slammed her examiner seal onto the control desk. Those systems are not authorized for public activation. They are authorized for emergency stabilization. Of what emergency? Varden looked at the free monster girls around me. This one. The panels fired. A pressure wave crossed the frontier. Every monster in the arena jerked at once. Fenu dropped to one knee. Selku's hands locked against the stone. Kea screamed from the upper air and folded one wing before catching herself. The basilisk we had just freed slammed its own head against the floor, trying to stop its body from turning. Nairu went completely still. Then her right hand rose. Slowly, against her will. Her claws turned toward me. The crowd broke into panic. Sarah shouted for the city wards to shut down. Nothing happened. Varden had built the command network inside the same infrastructure meant to protect the frontier. Damon's bracer flashed black. Thin command lines climbed from his wrist toward his throat. He swallowed hard. The risk warning from the hidden file was no longer theoretical. Varden did not look at him. He was watching Naira. Nairu took one step toward me. Her face was furious. Her body kept moving. Then the love algorithm caught her real voice under the command noise. Ren. The ranking was over. Varden's system had already turned the victory celebration into a battlefield. Nairu's claws came toward my throat. Her voice said the opposite. Move. I dropped sideways. Her hand tore through the stone rail where my head had been. Nairu's body turned after me. Her face looked sick. I am not doing this. I know. The command noise flooded the love algorithm. Strike, suppress, kneel, advance. The words were not spoken by Nairu. They sat over her real voice like another person screaming into the same room. Fena's wings ignited across the arena. Her body launched fire toward the fleeing crowd. She managed to twist one wrist. The flames hit empty seats instead. Selka locked her own dragon body around a pillar before the command could force her forward. Keu crashed onto a roof rather than dive into civilians. They were already resisting, just not enough. Veyru's voice reached me through multi-voice parse. The commands have physical relays. Black vines spread from her claws across the arena wall. I can feel the pulses passing through the city. Can you reach the relays? Not while half the monsters between us are being used as guards. Nairu attacked again. I backed away. She stopped her claws a finger width from my chest. Every muscle in her arm shook. The signal is over me. Her teeth clenched. Not inside me. That was the rule I needed. The command had not replaced her. It was burying her. The love algorithm tried to translate both layers at once. The force command arrived first. Nairu's real words broke underneath it. I could hear that she was still there. I could not separate enough meaning fast enough. The love algorithm answered with another update. True voice isolation unlocked. The noise changed. Forced commands went cold and distant. Nairu's voice snapped into focus. Do not stand in front of me. I almost laughed. That is the most useful thing you have said today. You are impossible. Her body swung again. I moved before the claws reached me. The strike hit the arena floor. Stone burst across my legs. I dropped behind the broken rail while Naira forced her own wrist sideways. Her claws missed my back by inches. That tiny miss cost her. Black command light crawled up her arm like a tightening chain. Her knees bent. She still looked at me. Still herself. That was the proof I needed. Varden could force motion. He could not replace the person choosing how hard to resist. Sarah had reached the arena broadcast crystal. Her voice hit every public speaker in the frontier. This is not stabilization. Martin turned toward her. Sarah kept talking. The network is overriding independent motor control. The crowd heard it. The guards heard it. The hunters heard it. Commander Varden's system is forced control. That broke the story he had been trying to tell. A hunter squad near the east stair lowered 2 restraint rifles. Their commander shouted at them to raise the weapons again. One guard did. One did not. The crowd heard Sarah call the system coercive. The people operating it heard her too. It did not break the network. It did crack Varden's authority over the humans standing around it. I used resonance Kari, not as one giant command, one question at a time. Nairu, what can you safely resist? My left hand. Then Miss Left. Her next strike passed my shoulder. Fena? One flame. Put it high. Red gold fire went over the crowd and exploded against an empty banner. Kia, I can ruin my landing. Do it where nobody is standing. A white-teal blur crashed through a market awning instead of the evacuation line. Selka, I can freeze my own tail. Freeze it. Ice locked her to the plaza. Across the city, other voices began answering. Small things. One misstep. One claw closed instead of opening. One wing folding early. A controlled wolf forced its own shoulder into a lamppost instead of a fleeing family. A river beast dragged its jaw through the mud to slow a bite it could not stop. A storm dragon tore membrane from one wing by crashing into a roof rather than following the command toward a child. None of those choices looked heroic from far away. Up close, every one of them was a fight. One forced bite landing on armor instead of flesh. The network was still controlling bodies, but the people inside those bodies were finding cracks. Hunters noticed. A squad near the western relay started shouting at one another when 3 controlled beasts hesitated at the same moment. Beru's vines tightened. 3 relay clusters lit through her vines. One under the arena, one beneath the western market, one inside the old hunter tower. Theo's voice came over the emergency channel from the evacuation street. We have controlled monsters between the civilians and every normal exit. Keep people moving where they choose to miss. That is the strangest route instruction I have ever received. Is it working? A crash sounded behind him. Then Theo laughed once. A wolf just missed us by an entire wagon. Then yes. Every moment the collar network stayed active turned another free ally into a weapon against the people she chose. The first relay opened because a controlled wolf missed one step. That was enough. Viru's vines found the exposed pulse and painted the whole command network across my vision. 5 major paths. 5 women beside me who had already proven what happened when I treated them like one unit. I did not give an order, I asked. Naira. She tore one claw free at the command rhythm. The aerial tower is mine. Feni. Wide wings burned red gold behind her. I am taking the civilians somewhere the hunters cannot follow. Kia. Her white-teal wings snapped open. Extraction. Vera. Black-purple vines spread between her fingers. Give me one open relay. It go. Ice crawled across the broken plaza around her dragon body. The civilians stay alive. 5 answers. No ownership, no shared command, just roles they chose. Then Varden activated the sealed asset from the command file. The central tower split open. A dragon rose out of it, not Naira. Older, larger. The same apex asset Sarah had found hidden under Varden's program record. Gold-white scales covered a body wrapped in black command bands. Its wings hit the tower walls on the way out. The whole frontier went dark beneath them. Its real voice reached me before its roar did. Do not let me kill them. The command bands pulled its head toward the evacuation road. The dragon dug both front claws into the tower wall to slow itself. Stone peeled away under the force. That one act told me everything. Even the strongest thing Varden owned did not want to be his weapon. Damon stood beneath the central relay with the command amplifier burning around his arm. Varden had connected the network through him. Black lines ran from the bracer into Damon's throat and chest. His face had lost all color. He still smiled when he saw me. Now they listen. A dozen smaller controlled monsters charged the evacuation road. Damon's arm shook as he forced the command harder. Some of those monsters were already injured. One limped on 3 legs. Another had a broken horn hanging sideways. He sent them anyway. The amplifier lines climbed higher toward his throat. He coughed once. A black spark jumped from the bracer to his jaw. The warning Sarah had seen was already starting. Damon saw it. He kept pushing. Fena disappeared in red gold fire. Illusions split the evacuation route into 10 false streets. The controlled monsters chased the wrong civilians. Ku dropped from above and carried the real wounded over the wall in pairs. Selka froze the avenue behind them. She made a barrier, not a prison. Nairu went up. The enslaved apex dragon met her above the arena. Their collision sounded like the sky cracking. The larger dragon forced Nairu backward through the top of a watch platform. Wood and stone fell into the empty lane below. Nairu rolled in the air and came back from the side. She could have gone for the throat. I heard the other dragon scream, not there. I used resonance Kari. Naira, it says, do not kill it. I heard you. That changed her whole attack. She stopped trying to win quickly. She started trying to create room for the dragon to choose. The apex dragon's tail tore through a tower roof. Selka climbed the ice she had created and wrapped frost around one rear leg. Nairu hit the opposite wing. Together they forced the dragon down without breaking its neck. Vera reached the central relay. Varden was waiting for her. He carried a black hunter spear, covered in the same restraint marks as Nairu's old wound. He struck at Veru's vines. She pulled back. The spearhead touched one vine. Every connected vine flashed black. Vera cut the vine herself before the command pulse could reach her body. That cost her half the vines she had built across the platform. Varden smiled. You see the problem now. Veru's rose-gold eyes narrowed. You keep mistaking resistance for a problem. He attacked again. Fenyu's fire crossed between them and forced him away from the relay. Kyo hit the platform a heartbeat later and ripped 2 hunter guards into the air by their armor straps. She threw them onto an empty roof instead of the street. Damon screamed through the amplifier. More controlled monsters surged toward us. One collapsed before it reached the plaza. Another dragged a broken leg and still kept moving because the command would not let it stop. Theo's evacuation carts reached the far gate. Selka sealed the street behind the last one with a wall of ice. Fenu burned a clean opening through a hunter barricade without touching the trapped monsters beside it. Kea dropped 3 restraint rifles onto an empty roof and came back for the next group. Everyone had a different job. That was why the formation held. Varden did not even look at him. That was when Damon finally understood what he had become. Not Varden's partner, his battery. Damon looked toward Varden. Turn it down. Varden never took his eyes off Vera. If you want them obedient, hold the signal. Damon's jaw clenched. He held it. That choice was his too. The Apex Dragon's real voice broke through again. There is a second core. I focused, true voice Isu Laishun. Where? Below my heart. Nairu's claws were already at its chest, not the throat. She changed the strike. Selka pinned the dragon's lower body. Fena burned the command bands around one wing. Kea cleared the last hunter from Veru's path. Varden's overdrive was burning the network open, but it was also burning every controlled monster and Damon with it. The overdrive reached the Apex Dragon too. It tore its pinned leg out of Selku's ice and forced itself back into the air. The Apex Dragon opened its chest plates by choice. Only a few inches. Enough. I heard the real voice under the command. Left, Naira, left side. Nairu changed direction in midair. Her claws missed the dragon's heart. They hit the black relay buried beneath it. The metal cracked. The Apex Dragon screamed. Then the command bands around its wings went dark. It fell. Selka caught the lower body in a ramp of ice. Naira took the shoulders. They put the dragon on the ground alive. That was the part Varden's system never planned for, saving the weapon. Veru drove every black-purple vine she had into the central relay. Fenyu burned the exposed command lines. Kea tore the upper transmitter free from the tower. The network collapsed in pieces. Across the city, collars and restraint marks failed. Controlled monsters stopped mid-strike. Some ran. Some dropped to the ground. Some turned toward the hunters who had forced them. One hunter threw down his rifle before the monster in front of him decided what to do. Another backed into a wall. The freed wolf only stepped around him and went looking for its pack. The river beast crawled toward the water. The storm dragon lifted a wounded civilian onto a roof instead of taking revenge. They did not slaughter the people who had controlled them. That choice mattered too. Everyone watching finally saw the difference between obedience and loyalty without needing Sarah to explain it. Sarah's voice came over the city speakers. Ejine, stand down. This time the monsters decided whether to listen. Most did. Varden did not. He ripped the emergency spear from the dead relay and charged Vera himself. Nairu landed between them. One claw closed around the weapon. Varden triggered the old restraint crest. For the first time, nothing answered. His face changed. Naira saw it. So that is what you look like without everyone else's chains. She broke the spear in half. Varden reached for a side blade. Selka froze both boots to the platform. Fena burned the command bracer off his wrist. Kia hit him with one wing beat and took him off his feet before the blade cleared its sheath. Sarah's field guards reached him before he stood again. They locked both arms behind his back. Commander Sol Varden was arrested alive on the machine he had built to remove everyone else's choices. Damon was still connected to the amplifier. Varden. His voice broke. The black lines around his throat were glowing. Get this off me. Varden looked at him once. Then he pulled the emergency release on his side of the network. The remaining overload dumped into Damon. The warning built into the amplifier came due all at once. Black light burned across his throat. He screamed. The sound came out wrong, not words. Static and a rough animal noise. The damage sealed into a dark command scar around his neck. The system named the result, Silence Brand. Damon grabbed his throat. He tried to shout at Varden. Nothing human came out. Varden let the guards drag him away without looking back. The man who had left me alone in a field because he thought I was useless stood outside the secure line with nobody choosing to stay beside him. I did not celebrate that part. I did not need to. The city spent the next hours pulling command hardware out of its walls. The arena did not become a celebration immediately. It became a rescue station. Theo's carts moved medicine instead of trade goods. Nairis opened the river route for injured monsters who refused human treatment. Vera marked every surviving command node so nobody could hide one inside another wall. Only after the last civilian line cleared did Sarah find me near the arena. Naira stood on my right. Fanu, Nairis, Varu, Q, and Selka had gathered nearby. None of them stood in formation. Sarah held out a new legal document. The council wants to make you the registered master of every free monster who fought under your coordination. No. She almost smiled. I assumed. Free ally status was the correct answer the first time. Sarah looked across the women beside me. Then we expanded. Trade rights went to the monster communities that had opened their routes. Theo received a frontier logistics charter. The river settlements received medical stores. The captured monsters received their names back instead of inventory numbers. Nobody asked me to own them again. Nairu waited until Sarah left. Then she looked at me. You refused a legal claim over 6 very powerful women. I noticed. Fena leaned around her. He is learning. Selka folded her arms. Slowly. Nairu ignored both of them. I am staying. I looked at her. You know you do not have to. Her molten gold eyes narrowed. That is why the answer matters. She took my hand. I choose to. Behind us, Fenyu made an exaggerated wounded noise. I decided not to answer any of them.